All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Let's party! So I want to give a big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to check out the party, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is all right. You will still have a good time, but make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, so you never, ever, ever miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. And if I could ask you a quick little favor, let me know in the comments, what time did you start watching this? I'm looking to do some different times. Maybe I'll get you in there. Also, before we begin, let's say a big thank you to my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. What is good? We got David Banner in the building already. Said he would vote AOC. I don't know about all that, but I might be able to change your mind, sir. I might be able to change your mind. So I just put out a video today from something that was a couple weeks old of Donald Trump Jr. talking about why we should forgive Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch for everything that they've done because they give the Republicans money. What? And I was like, no. So gave me a perfect excuse to do something that I kind of had been putting off. Checking out Vivek Ramaswamy. So Vivek Ramaswamy is running for president, and he will be running against Trump as he is going for the Republicans. I mean, it might not get that far, but I'm saying he is officially in the race. And especially since DeSantis is not yet in the race, I wanted to check him out, see what he's all about. I have not watched maybe clips here and there. I saw him on with Chuck Todd, and he handled himself very well. But other than that, I am very much not familiar with Vivek. So if you are, then let me know if he's being a little squirrely here. And if you're not, let's learn together. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
Good to be back at this college. The last time I came here, actually, my wife, who couldn't be here tonight, did pick up a research assistant who's now doing great work for her as a Hillsdale student. And so I'm hopeful with a number of students in the audience that I might pick up some interns or future hires tonight as well. I've already been talking to a few prospective candidates. I was sitting next to Emily, who asked me what my favorite state was. Was it Ohio, where I'm from? And I said, Ohio's a good state. I can't say it's the best state. She said, I can tell you what's the best state. It's Indiana, where she's from.
David Banner says Vivek Ramaswamy will not get a second look from many people from name alone. Sad but true reality. I think you are very correct about that. I think it would have been, I think we're in that in between space where, of course, everybody wants to be the one who's I don't care about that. I will learn his name and support him and all that. But at the end of the day, while I am certainly not one to call racism or pull the racism card, David, you are absolutely correct. So this speech is from a couple months ago at Hillsdale College. So relatively recent, campaign stuff isn't going to change too much at this point in the game from 2 months, just so you know where we are coming from. But good call, David.
So it's the cussedness of the Hillsdale student, but the funny story is, so Dr. Arn mentions my dad coming to this country. I'm sitting next to Emily, who's from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'll tell you a funny story about my father, who first came to this country, to Cincinnati, Ohio. And I asked him, why did you come halfway around the world?
All right, so we already got something in common. My parents are both immigrants. I'm a first-generation American, so score one.
To Cincinnati, Ohio, of all places. And he says that it was because his older sister had actually settled in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he had to find a place that was close to her, which of course begged the question of why his older sister came halfway around the world to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Maybe it's because it's the best state, but the family joke is it's the only U.S. state with the word India contained in the name of the state. So
Hey, we got indie film in the building. Welcome to the party. Says a bunch of rednecks voted for Barack Hussein Obama, so I don't know if the name matters that much. That is a fantastic point. That is a good point. However, I think because he ran with the Democrats, it was a little bit less of less of a factor. So that's very interesting. And see, I am such not a racist that I didn't even think of either of these things. So this is why I love having you guys here. And we got Alex Pickers in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. Always good to see you. How are you doing? Checking out Vivek Ramaswamy.
Emily, you reminded me of that story. So, actually, a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight picks up where Dr. Arnn left off, which was why my parents came to this country. The answer to that question relates to who we are as a people. And it turns out it's not a geographic space that we all roam as a different colored group of higher mammals doing what iPhones tell us to do on a given day. I know that's how it looks sometimes, but it is a vision of a nation that brought together a divided polyglot group of people 250 years ago.
David, I can't read that out, so I'm going to leave that up for you.
And the subject of my talk today is going to be the national identity crisis that we're going through today. I'm 37 years old. I was born in 1985. I speak as a member of my generation when I say that we today are hungry for a purpose.
So we have the poll up of who, at this point, who would you vote for? Alex says, let's say it's close between DeSantis and Trump and then a big gap. Would you pick between or still vote for someone that's not them two? Are you asking me or are you asking for the poll? It's Trump and DeSantis and then a big gap. Would you pick between or still vote for someone that's not them two? I mean, it would really come down to, what if it's close, then one of them is ahead. So at the end of the day, the whichever one pulls out ahead, pulls out ahead. David says, I don't say it to be hateful. No, of course. And David referring to, Jagmeet Singh and people saying not so nice stuff to him. Don't say it to be hateful, simply just to put out there that I know what I'm talking about, and it is very real. Any film comes back and says, I've seen pictures of your prime minister in brown face wearing a turban, so I can see that about Canadians. Oh, going at each other. But yeah, so I mean, if it's close, then that's a good thing because then now I have a lot of reason. Well, maybe it's a bad thing because I don't have very many reasons, but let's say I have zero reason except for one thing. Well, if it's that one thing, then it's that one thing. On the other hand, don't forget that abstaining to vote is still an option. People will tell you that is not a good thing to do, but and I do believe that you should be involved in the electoral process. But at the end of the day, we've had decades and decades and decades of just voting the lesser of two evils, and it has not helped or worked for anything. So, I mean, if it was so close because everybody's so low, I probably just wouldn't vote. If it's so close because they're both neck and neck with how much I like them a lot, then it would just be, whichever issue that I I cared more about. For example, I just did a video, I think yesterday, about the two of them and how they respond to the trans stuff. And if that was the only difference that they had, then I would have to go with DeSantis. Any film says, don't abstain, vote for the libertarian. At least your vote won't be completely wasted. Well, that's probably what I'm going to do anyway, especially if Dave Smith runs. But absolutely. You don't either way. But that being said, if Gary Johnson was in there, if it was Gary Johnson, Hillary, Biden, and Trump didn't fix up all of the stuff that he needs to fix up from his 2020 run, then I might just abstain. That the fact of the matter is, we have to stop this idea of a vote being wasted. I understand that is kind of the case, but that's not enough. That's not enough to supersede the idea that if you are voting for somebody, you are saying, I want this person to be the leader of the free world. And that just doesn't come easily for me. It did at one point. Libertarians were jokers. The Mises Caucus and Dave Smith have taken over, and we have a lot of good things coming out of the Libertarian Party. It's funny how it was a liberal in brownface. He's a charlatan that got voted in under gimmicks. That's politics. Young people saw legal weed, and that was enough for a decent amount of people. I mean, hey man, that is politics. Going back to the way back in the day when Lee asked me, is politics more about policy or feelings? I wanted to jump and say policy, but that would be wrong. It's about feelings.
My generation, we are hungry for a cause.
And he's 38, so he is right. I'm 33. He's 38. We're right in that same. I think he's my brother's age.
We're hungry for identity. At a moment in our national history when the things that used to give us,
I always am,
purpose, faith, patriotism, hard work, family. Those things have disappeared. They have receded in modern American life.
Notice how I don't have an issue with him talking about faith, because he didn't say faith in what? If he had said God, I'd have been like, oh, come on. But he said faith. That's fine.
And we suffer from depression and anxiety and a mental health epidemic as we flail from one secular religion to another, from transgenderism to climatism to COVIDism.
And that is only going to continue as long as the only moral structure that exists for people to actually glob onto is religion. Because as we've said many, many, many times, we cannot turn back the clock. And there are some people, myself included, who will never, even in our wildest dreams, as much as we want to, without any convincing evidence, we will not be able to believe in God. And William says, I don't think it's funny a liberal was in brownface. It's always the left and liberals that have been the racists. I mean, there's been racists all throughout history, but as of right now, the idea that the left is the party of not being racist, like their whole platform is racism. Identity politics is racism.
Just as part of our
racism plus
deeper search for meaning, even as we cannot quite answer the question of what it even means to be an American.
How often on this channel do I talk about the American identity, American values? And what did he just say? That all that has been washed away. I'm telling you guys, I know what I'm talking about. We need to fix dogmatic thinking, semantic obfuscation. So far, he is speaking my language.
In the year 2023. What does it mean to be American today? I think we lack an answer to that question. Our lack of an answer to that question is the black hole at the center of our nation's soul. And when you have a vacuum that runs that deep, that is when poison begins to fill the void.
Yup.
That's going to be the subject of my next half hour. Taking a stab at the answer of what it does mean to be an American.
What does it mean to be an American? Or in other words, what is the American identity? The same exact thing that we've been talking about for over a year.
In the year 2023. I'll take you back to the moment in 1993 when I was in second grade in Evendale Elementary in Southwest Ohio, when I heard Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech for the first time. That was the speech where he said, I hope my 4 children grow up in a country where they are judged not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. I'll tell you, that dream, it stuck with me.
Well, yeah. I mean, we go over it over and over and over, rightfully, but that's not like some obscure quote.
It meant something to me because it was the dream that allowed my dad to come to this country over 40 years ago and build a successful career for himself at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio, despite the fact that he had a thick Indian accent. He still does to this day. It was the dream that allowed me to go in a single generation from being the kid of Indian immigrants who came to this country with almost no money to
Well,
becoming the founder of a multi-billion-dollar biotech company.
okay, I thought he was going to be like, oh, yeah, me too. So first of all, my parents absolutely came to this country with nothing. But my dad was already a doctor. So it's not like he started with nothing. But he absolutely had like $20 to his name. And then obviously I'm not the founder of a multi-billion-dollar biotech company. But that's where I thought he was going.
I had the privilege of leading that company as a CEO for 7 years. We worked on a number of medicines for patients. 5 of them are FDA-approved drugs today. The one I'm personally most proud of is an approved drug for prostate cancer. But I stepped down as CEO of that company several years ago.
But why?
To focus on a different kind of cancer. Not a biological cancer, but a cultural cancer that threatened to kill that dream that Martin Luther King had 60 years ago.
Might he be talking about leftism? Might he be talking about all of the things that we try to point out and say they're so horrible while other people will lift them up as if they're virtuous?
That threatened to kill the dream that allowed me to achieve everything I ever had in my life. And that is this new secular religion in America, whose belief system centers on the idea that your identity is based on your race, your gender, and your sexual orientation, full stop.
Full stop. I completely agree. Leftism, scientism, whatever, all of those things, identity politics are secular religions. Not every secular religion, I mean, I guess religion is, a word that's kind of doesn't really fit there. But not every secular ideology, let's say, has to be, that's a way to put it. Not every secular ideology has to be a religion. Because a religion entails dogma. Dogma. Hey, we got Dan Jensen in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So glad you are here, brother. Never have to apologize for being late. I am so glad you are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. David says, I'm liking what I'm hearing from Vivek so far, but this is my first exposure to him. Me as well, but I agree. I'm, we're only a quarter of the way through, but he is doing very well. Hey, already, Dan, you just got here. Oh, man. Thank you so much. No question, no comment, just pure love of the game. And I got new peanut butter banana treats just because you guys are so fantastic. That's right. Every treat or every super chat, every donation, Cash App, any of those things comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you so much, Dan. And of course, the largest donation makes you the sponsor of the stream.
It says that America is a systemically racist country, that if you're black, you're inherently disadvantaged, that if you're white, you're inherently privileged. No matter your economic background or upbringing, your race and your gender govern who you are and what you can achieve in life, and even what you can say, even what you can think. It's a really clever statement of this new philosophy from
Thank you again, Dan.
Presley of the Squad. I'm grateful to her for articulating it so succinctly when she said that we do not want any more black faces that do not want to be a black voice. What? That we don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice.
What is a black voice or a brown voice? Like, okay, I could, in a slightly racist way, I can understand what you mean by black voice, but that's a sonic thing. And I don't think that's what they're talking about. I'm brown. I don't know what a brown voice is. How is this not exactly the same thing as, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black? I don't, was he quoting somebody or was he just saying like, this is yeah, I think he said he was quoting somebody, right? Let me back that up real quick.
Not want articulating it so succinctly when she said that we do not want any more black faces that do not want to be a black voice.
That's racist.
We don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice.
Haram!
I do not fit her description of what counts as a brown voice, no doubt.
Again, what is a brown voice? What does that mean?
But there's a
and do Latino people, do they count? Depending on their skin tone. Are they brown voices or this is why I hate identity politics.
Really clever move embedded in there.
Semantic obfuscation.
And it's this: if your race goes from being about the color of your skin to being about the content of the ideas you're allowed to espouse, then any disagreement with those ideas automatically makes you a racist.
Ladies and gentlemen, if it's your first time here, this has been the most direct example of specifically what we aim to fight against on this channel. Listen again to what he said, because it is so important and it's so spot on.
It goes from being about the color of your hair. And it's this: if your race goes from being about the color of your skin to being about the content of the ideas you're allowed to espouse.
So again, semantic obfuscation. The race in, when it works for them, the race is the color of your skin. But when it's used against you, it's the content of your ideas, obfuscating the semantics of what race means. Dan says it makes you not a leader for all. Definitely true. Definitely true. Don't want anybody like that leading me.
Then any disagreement with those ideas
makes you wrong.
Automatically makes you a racist.
That is semantic obfuscation, doublespeak. Camcast had another word for it the other day, but any of these things, that is exactly one of the two huge problems. Dogmatic thinking, accepting these beliefs without the ability to question them, and semantic obfuscation, what he just told us about.
And there is no greater damnation in modern America than to be called a racist, or the equivalent of a racist in our social hierarchy: climate denier, bigot, homophobe, so on. And so when given the choice between pledging allegiance...
another one, double speak, and a lot of the terms from 1984, all that kind of stuff. I don't know why people talk about 1984 all the time. But, you'll hear that new speak or double speak here and there. But why isn't that a huge, huge focus of what we're talking about? And hey, Vivek's talking about it, so I am listening.
To this new religion and being tarred with the scarlet R, every day Americans are choosing to bend the knee. And that is what's created this new culture of fear in our country. Fear of losing your jobs, fear of your kids getting a bad grade in school, fear of becoming a pariah in your own community. And that culture of fear is what's replaced our culture of free speech in America. And if you ask me,
absolutely,
the best measure of the health of any democracy, especially American democracy,
is how free we are to speak.
It isn't the number of ballots that get cast every November. That's just fetishizing the final act at the end of the process. It is the percentage of people who feel free to say what they actually think in public.
Absolutely.
And right now we are doing abysmally on that metric. Now, in order to know where you want to go, you have to know what got you to where you are. And part of the story of what got us here actually began through none other than a perversion of capitalism itself, dating back to the 2008 financial crisis, on the back of the bailouts.
Okay. Again, speaking my language, because this was a little, Occupy Wall Street, all of that stuff. That was a little bit before when I was paying attention to stuff. So I knew that there was stuff going on. I just wasn't really that into it. And I just, I didn't know and became a default liberal. David says, fear keeps us all in line. Absolutely. There's no greater motivator than fear. Sadly.
Of the 2008 financial crisis, something really interesting happened in this country. It's not just that Barack Obama was elected president, though that was part of it. In the wake of the bailouts, there was a grand bargain in this country, an unspoken grand bargain between big business and what used to be our conception of big government. It went like this.
David says, I'm not an Illuminati conspiracy guy, but there are for sure people that love the way America is going down. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know how you could think anything else. We know that, Alex Jones was talking about the globalists for decades. And he was, a little out there, so nobody really was paying attention to it. But how many times do we have to put $1 in the Alex Jones was right jar? You don't have to be an Illuminati conspiracy theory guy anymore to understand that there are forces at play that are bigger than local politics, than state politics, than federal politics, and even the international foreign affairs politics, geopolitics, whatever you want to call it, that we know about. There is another level. What is that level? Who are those people? How much power do they actually have? What exactly do they want? We don't necessarily know for sure, but we do know that they are pushing us towards these social credit scores. They are pushing us towards you will own nothing and be happy. They want to own everything, and they want you to have to be subservient to them. This is not a conspiracy anymore. Maybe even 5 years ago, it'd be like, oh, come on, really? Not anymore. Not anymore. This is straight facts.
Okay. If you're going to get that public money to save the bankers when times go bad,
boo,
but you made a lot of money when times went good, then the Occupy Wall Street movement has a claim on that wealth. What the Occupy Wall Street movement said is we're going to take that money from those wealthy corporate fat cats and redistribute it to poor people to help poor people.
So specifically because of the bailouts. Yeah, okay.
But right around that time, there was a new birth of progressivism in this country that had a different theory of the case. What they had to say was, you know what? The real problem wasn't quite just economic injustice, wasn't quite just poverty. No, it was racial injustice and misogyny and bigotry and climate change. And that actually presented a lifeline to big business in this country.
This is something that Tim Pool talks about all the time. As many of you may know, that he was he was on the ground in 2008. He was, now he's Tim Pool, so we couldn't get any unbiased stories out there because he would become the story. But in 2008, he was just some guy with a camera. And this is exactly what he's been saying for years. That, the first few weeks, everybody was down there, everybody was together, everybody was focused on the same thing. And then after a few weeks, the more established people who were more likely to be conservative would have to go back to work or go take care of their family. And it's the liberals who were out there. And these ideas of identity politics were injected specifically to splinter that crowd. Because they know that together we are stronger than they are, which is why they need to keep us continuing fighting all the time and keep us afraid.
Because if you're Wall Street, you don't like Occupy Wall Street very much.
No, you don't.
Is actually pretty easy. You applaud diversity and inclusion, put some token minorities on your boards. You muse about the racially disparate impact of climate change after you fly in that private jet to Davos. It's pretty good work if you can get it.
I bet.
But they didn't do it for free. There was an implicit ask in return that the new left looked the other way when it came to leaving their corporate power intact. And it worked so well for Wall Street that Silicon Valley then get in on the act.
So now we're hitting on this issue that it's a tit for tat. That, hey, we'll champion these issues, so we're on the same side. So when we're doing these things that are objectively wrong and even hurting you personally, well, hey, we're on your side. And it's all about sides and tribes and teams. That's genius. That is brilliant. David says, I am very certain that a certain 3-letter agency that isn't supposed to conduct operations on civilians are directly responsible for all the race baiting we see amongst the populace. I mean, it's hard to think that anything else could be the case. To think that we would get here organically. To think that we would get here organically is crazy. This has to be the case, what David's talking about. This has to be the case.
What Silicon Valley realized was that the old version of break up big tech used to come from the left. Well, here's what we can do. We will use our monopoly power to advance your ideas. We will use our monopoly power to take down hate speech or misinformation as you define it, but we will not do it for free. We expect the new progressive movement to look the other way when it comes to leaving our monopoly power. intact.
So this is why we hear, we hear vague talk about the millionaires and the billionaires and all that stuff. But when it comes to actual policy, we get to look the other way. And of course, the average liberal will, is of course, I'm not saying that there's not people on the left who are well informed. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the default, if you are somebody who doesn't pay attention to politics, you are way more likely to be a default liberal. And so because they know that, they use that against you. And it's not a level playing field because they already have the people on their side in their pockets. Dan says, we need to find a way to keep companies and politicians away from each other. They should not be intertwined. I mean, that is, one of the biggest problems, I think, with our political system. And I don't know how to fix it because politics is all about the ability to raise funds, to get your message out there, to change things in society. So the money aspect has to be there in some respect. But how far? It's difficult. It says, I think Bernie is one of the only politicians in both major political parties that genuinely care, though, much about the wealth gap. I don't know, man. I think he cares to an extent, but not enough to put himself out there to the degree that he needs to. He put himself out there going on the billionaires and billionaires. That's what I was doing, Bernie. But notice as soon as he crossed that threshold, he dropped the millionaires part, the billionaires. Oh, so now that you are a millionaire, it's okay to be a millionaire. I thought that was the most evil thing that you could be, was a millionaire. So, I mean, I do think he cares. And I was a Bernie bro before, before all of this. So there's definitely worse people in government than Bernie Sanders, but I don't know. David goes on to say, I mean, like, he wants to change it, not just a mouthpiece for votes. Yeah, I do believe that is the case. I believe he is. Yeah. I do believe he wants to help, but I just don't think that his ideas are strong enough, and it doesn't seem like he's surrounded himself with the people to make his maybe more idealistic points have a practical middle ground. We talk about the aspect of having an ideal and understanding that is the ideal and that is not realistic, so that we can get as close to that ideal as possible. We bring this up with like the ANCAPs, the anarcho-capitalists, and saying that the market is perfect and it will solve everything, so we don't need government at all. Now that's a nice fairy tale. That's not realistic. But as long as we understand that that's not realistic, then we can say, okay, well, this is unrealistic, but this would be ideal. So let's get as close to that as possible. And I'm just not sure that what Bernie Sanders sees or saw as that ideal had any practical middle ground that would work for him and would work for the messaging that he was putting out there. So, I mean, I 1000% would have voted for him. I was banking on voting for him. And that is why I did the horrible, shameful thing of casting a vote for Hillary, which is also why I am very, very protective about my votes going forward.
That is the story of this arranged marriage. It is not an arranged marriage of love. It is more like mutual prostitution.
Oh,
and the net
government and business, arranged marriage, but not one of love, of mutual prostitution.
Haram!
This guy's good.
Result of that act is the birth of this new ESG woke industrial complex that's actually a new hybrid.
What were we just talking about? What was David just talking about? This is not a conspiracy theory anymore. This is widely known and accepted to be true.
Of state power and corporate power that's far more powerful than either one alone. And when you get that much power concentrated in the way that it is, state power and corporate power combined, then it lends itself to capture. And that's what happened in more recent years when a new actor showed up on the scene and turned that arranged marriage into a three-party affair.
Uh-oh.
That is the Communist Party of China. They understand this game far more deeply than any of us do. What they realized is, okay, now we can take this one step further. If we can get those same companies that will critique the United States relentlessly, that will apply emissions caps over there.
Notice how he's not talking about bombs or guns or anything like that. What he's talking about is this fifth generational warfare that we're talking about. Getting people to think and act a certain way without forcing them to do it. By getting them to think that they want to that Americans want to destroy our own country. That is what the CCP is focused on 100%.
In their apologist model of capitalism, to do business in China without saying a peep about the actual human rights atrocities over here, we have undermined America's greatest geopolitical asset of all, and that is not our nuclear arsenal. It is our moral standing on the global stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you...
We only have, there's plenty of countries now that have, nukes and all of this and that. The only thing that has kept America as the quasi, I guess, leader of the free world is our morals, is our culture, and that is fading. We are losing it. Again, this guy is speaking my language.
You get Disney, who 2 years ago will say it can't shoot a film in the state of Georgia if Georgia passes an anti-abortion statute. That it says it cannot abide a new law in Florida that prevents public school teachers from teaching 6-year-olds about transgenderism and gender identity.
Well, I guess Marty found something over there. I was going to make a joke about how horrible, but Morty ruined the timing.
But we'll go in the same period to film Mulan in the Xinjiang province of China. Literally ground zero of the Uyghur human rights crisis, where there are over 1 million religious minorities enslaved in concentration camps, subject to forced sterilization, communist indoctrination, and worse, without saying a peep, until the very end of the movie. You could still see it in the credits today.
So Dan says, moral standings. I guess he is not agreeing with me there. So I'm sure we are many countries that thinks that ship has sailed. Well, I think what I mean is not that, all Americans are the most moral people. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the standard of what we believe should be was that of liberty. And it's just now in the last decade or two that that's been changing. Now maybe that ship has sailed. I would like to think it hasn't. But that's how quickly things can change. That's how quickly things can go down the drain. Dave says, by the way, I think Disney is onto something sinister with Black Panther. Please tell me more about that. I agree with Kanye on that. Replacing very real history of civil rights with fake ass stupid stories. Tell me more about Black Panther. I'm interested in that. What are we talking about here?
Where they say, we thank the local authorities for allowing us the privilege of filming here. Reminds me of those trees in Harlem.
The trees?
That was what Disney got out of that trade.
Oh my goodness, we got a new sponsor of the stream, and Morty knows it. Indie Film wants a chill pill for Morty, and he's gonna get it. Thank you so much. Come on, eat it. And we've got a new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much, sir. Much appreciated. And as you can tell, he is loving it.
But it turns out every other company's doing the same thing. Nike, BlackRock, Airbnb, JP Morgan Chase, the NBA. Why do they do it? The answer is actually really simple. It comes down to money.
Of course.
Because if you're the CCP, you build a great Chinese wall that prevents you from entering the Chinese market. If you criticize the CCP, but if you criticize the United States or hamstring its economy with those emissions caps, we will roll out the red carpet. And so companies do what companies do. That is why Tim Cook and Larry Fink are Xi Jinping's circus monkeys.
Harsh words. Harsh words. David says, when you Google Black Panther, now it has nothing to do with the struggle of Black Americans actively fighting for their right. But now, if you go, if you Google Black Panther, so you mean the idea of naming it Black? But Black Panther was already a thing. It's not like they made up that name recently, right? How old is the actual comic book character of Black Panther? Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know about that. I mean, definitely Disney is onto some insidious shit all over the place. But I also think that there is, a little bit, now we're getting into a little bit like just that's a little bit more conspiratorial. Why now? Because the MCU was popping and Black representation. Of course, we need Black representation. I mean, you could be right, but I'm gonna hold off on that. I'm gonna need a little bit more evidence on that one.
He will say jump. They will say how high, because it comes.
Wait, who is he talking about?
Caps. We will roll out the red carpet. And so companies do what companies do. That is why Tim Cook and Larry Fink are Xi Jinping's circus monkeys. He will say jump. They will say how high, because it comes down to their bottom line. It is the direct product of a bipartisan consensus in this country back in the 1990s. Conviction in the faith of democratic capitalism. The idea that somehow we could use capitalism as a vehicle to spread democracy to places like China. The idea that we could export Big Macs and Happy Meals and somehow that was going to spread freedom.
Remember that was literally like a talking point, that if we start spreading, culture like that, like McDonald's and stuff, that's going to lead to changing other countries to be exactly like us. What?
Well, what they realized is they could turn that game on its head.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we could use our money to get them to be more like us. They realized they could use their money, access to their market, to get us to be more like them. Or even one step better than that they could use our money to get us to be more like them. Sending back those Disney movies and iPhones as Trojan horses to undermine the United States from within.
Interesting.
So that is the problem.
What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? Using the devices like that as a Trojan horse. Listen to it again. See, I'm not really sure.
Better than that. To get us to be more like them. Or even one step better than that they could use our money to get us to be more like them.
They could use our money to get us to be more like them.
Sending back those Disney movies and iPhones as Trojan horses to undermine the United States from within.
To undermine the United States from within. So, okay. So yeah, let's go back one more time. Basically, what I think he is saying is that they are using their standards of what they want to develop, whether it is in the movies themselves or on TikTok, which we was talking about with the iPhones. It's we're paying for stuff that is if not making us more like them, making us stupid enough that they could easily take us over.
They use our money that we could them as a vehicle to spread democracy to places like China.
That's what we were saying. That I think we could use, spread McDonald's and it'll turn into democracy in China.
The idea that we could export Big Macs and Happy Meals and somehow that was going to spread freedom. Well, what they realized is they could turn that game on its head. We thought we could use our money to get them to be more like us. They realized they could use their money, access to their market, to get us to be more like them. Or even one step better than that they could use our money to get us to be more like them.
Yeah, that sounds like TikTok in a nutshell. Hey, we got Veronica in the building. Welcome to the party. She says, well, it's almost what's happening now. We buy their stuff with our money, and now they have police stations set up somewhere. And for what? Nada. Nothing. David Banner agrees. David Banner agrees. I am liking this guy. And I am surprised that nobody in the poll is picking our guy here. He is, you know, I don't know. I would have held off and picked him, but maybe we'll do it later. Hey, we got JB in the building. Welcome to the party. Finally made it to a live stream. Good to see you, brother. Glad you are here. We are taking a look at Vivek Ramaswamy. I am not very familiar with him, or not familiar with him at all. There we go. Somebody hit Vivek. Don't do it just for me though. Yeah. I was gonna say, JB says, I want to see Vivek as Trump's VP. I think that would work really, really, really well. He would definitely be able to soften the message of Trump, and Trump needs somebody like that. Pence was just, you know, a nobody in the sense that of you know, during the what you mean, the election itself, during the term itself. The fact is, he did nothing to help the cause. So if we had somebody like Vivek backing up Trump and kind of softening the things that he might say that appeal to the base, but then he can speak to the liberals, hey, that's a good plan. That's a good plan. Hey, we got MJ in the building. Welcome to the party. So I'm ready for someone to go in there and burn it down. Well, remember, that is what Trump was supposed to do. And to a large extent, he did, but not fully. And so I think, you know, just going on this, if it were the two of them, I would definitely, that is something that would make it a lot easier for me to want to vote for Trump with Vivek as a VP. It says we're almost there. I'm not trying to ish all over what Vivek is saying, but there are still a lot of old MFers that will look at that name and say never. Yeah, unfortunately true. Old people vote. Dan says, remember to hit that like button just for your pleasure. Thank you, buddy. So Dan was our first donation, but no, indie film hit him out with a $9.99. JBC says Indian Jesus has become like my spirit animal with all the vids hitting home. Love it, brother. Glad you finally made it here. Welcome. MJ said he is a lame duck if he did it, and I would rather save a DeSantis or a Vivek. For what do you mean? Talking about Trump? Let's save them for and have them unmarred. That's fair. That's fair, but I mean, like, I just don't think that, because I'm torn. You know, I'm right there with you. I completely agree with this. But at the same time, I'm torn between, is Trump the right guy? Because he didn't finish, doing this. This was supposed to be what he's doing, and he didn't get to finish. A lot of people were saying that, because of the numbers that we saw post-talk, but even before that, he anticipated on a second term. And so he was, trying to keep, everything kosher first term, and then second term, go full bore. So that's still a possibility. And with the time away from the office, I would say that if he's going to get a second term either way, if it was back to back versus this situation and gets a second term, I would much rather have the second term where he's had time out of the office to learn from what has happened before. MJ saying, yeah, I'd rather Trump go blow it up himself and then have a clearing for DeSantis and or Vivek. Yeah, I would. That's definitely a good way to go. The hard thing at this point is there's so many options that it's hard to answer one way or the other. There's a lot of things that could go well. But that would be totally acceptable in my book. DeSantis will never be the main nominee. Why do you say that? He's got a lot of support, and he hasn't even announced that he's running yet. I'm interested to see what you think about that.
sending back those Disney movies and iPhones as Trojan horses to undermine the United States.
Hey, we got Johnny Bodag in the building. Welcome to the party. Said Vivek was great against Don Lemon. Totally outclassed him. I like that. A lot of people are saying it's specifically that interaction. Like I said, this is my first time watching Vivek in long form, but I did see the interaction between him and Don Lemon, and a lot of people are saying that is why Don Lemon got fired, that he was kind of, on the edge with the whole Nikki Haley Pastor Prime thing, and then he does that, and they were just like, bro, you're done. You're done. Any Film says, I think the thing about a possible Trump presidency is it's possible he could just shut down every single ABC agency. I doubt anybody else would do that. And that's the part that I am, that I agree. I doubt anybody else would do that. And that's what's putting me in the camp of I want him to win. But at the same time, wanting him to win to me means not just getting the most votes, but earning those votes. And it's a little, I guess pedantic or whatever when we're talking about, the state of our nation. But you still have to stand on your values. You still have to have your principles. That is absolutely imperative. So I don't know. Trump is definitely still around. Oh, yeah. Don Lemon was super rude in that interview. And again, I think that is, not specifically why he got fired, but that was the last straw. David says, I'm sorry, but nobody, unless the entire GOP has your back. What? I'm going to get wins. I'm assuming you're saying wins unless the GOP has your back. There's tens of millions that would cast their vote for Trump. So, I mean, remember that the whole GOP hated Trump to begin with. They eventually got behind him, but it didn't start that way. They only backed him because if they didn't, then Hillary would have won. JB says, I miss when I was younger and my fandoms hadn't been woken and arpade, as we call it on this channel. Back in the day, politics mostly stayed in its own lane. Happy to see people standing up. The Bud Light thing has given me hope. That's right, guys. That video I dropped today was relevant to the Bud Light boycott, which is still very relevant. Do not buy Bud Light. Even if you don't drink, just keep not buying it. MJ says, look at the age of Vivek and DeSantis. They still have a long career ahead of them. If they're to run now, they will take it safe. I don't know what they'll take it safe means, but they, if it doesn't go well, that's certainly a mark on their record for sure. JB says, we don't just want Trump. We need him. And I do kind of feel that way, but I don't want to need somebody I don't want. Does that make sense? I don't have the desire to be in the position of, I don't want to vote for this guy, but we need to. Now, that's a different situation than if it's that because we need him to get her out of office or to get him out of office. That I will not do. But if he really is the best person for the job, and he really does earn my vote, and it's not by much, but he still gets there, then he's going to get my vote. Johnny says, I wonder how Trump was polling at this point in 2015. Anyone know? Well, I know for sure that on election night, the New York Times had Hillary Clinton at a 98% winning percentage chance of winning. So polls are not really much. What I like to see, or what I like to look at, is predictit.com. So how do we do? Okay. So it's basically a site where, you can, they kind of make this a stock market type of thing with all these different questions. So it's like GOP 2024 presidential nominee, winner, so on and so forth. And if we look, then what happens is that there is $1 to go around. So all this will add up to $1. And you can place your, you can put your money up buy, you can buy yes for 29 cents. You can buy no for 72 cents. And it works just like the stock market. And so you can see how normal individual people are putting their money up. When we first checked this, I think DeSantis was ahead of Trump by a few points. And ever since then, this has been growing and growing and growing. We got Tucker Carlson on here now. Where's Vivek? Where's our boy? Vivek is not even on here. Very interesting. Interesting. But I mean, and polls are all over the place all the time. So that to me is just a little bit more of an accurate look, because every pollster is going to have their own bias, where that thing is just about people and their money. So let's check out this poll. Who should be the GOP POTUS candidate? 55% to Donald Trump. Oh, Vivek came in second at 22%, and DeSantis at 11%. So those of you who said other, part of that was supposed to be commenting your answer, and nobody did. But that is all right. That is all right. Let's see, where were we? Yeah. Oh yeah. He's probably they're probably trying to do everything to make it look like he can't win. Then on the other hand, that was a big mistake for 2020. That even Michael Moore, I remember Michael Moore being on Real Time talking about how, like, hey guys, he can still win. Don't be resting on your laurels. Lo and behold, I don't like saying this, but Michael Moore was right. JB says, as the current white devil present in the room, I would agree that most of my less informed Southern brethren wouldn't see past Vivek's name. Yep. Yeah. I hear you. But yeah, that these polls, you can't, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It has so much to do with how the questions are worded, who are you asking, what is the context in which you're asking them, all that kind of stuff. So David says, Hillary is the enemy of the common people. As much as you can say Trump is not an everyman, Hillary is a career politician with a history of lies and votes to keep people powerless. Yeah, and I mean, as much as Trump is not an everyman, you have to look at situations like the time that he was on his jet and he was eating a steak and he cut it open. You could see that it was well done and that he had ketchup on it. And a bunch of people were like, oh my God, you're eating a well done steak with ketchup. Cool. And then you think about the lower to middle income family who has a bunch of kids who, doesn't necessarily get filet mignon when they're going to have a steak. They get, some London broil or some other cut. And because it's not as good, you cook it a little bit more well done. And because it's cooked a little bit more well done, you want to put a little sauce on it. And so what average people saw, who were every man, like literally every man type people, they're like, wait, I do that too. And all of these liberals are making fun of Trump for doing that. But I do the same thing. So, I mean, some people have even suggested that picture specifically was set up. But again, Occam's razor tells me that he's not that smart. But who knows? Who knows? Infilm says, under Trump, the best economy in 50 years, best unemployment numbers for every group, peace in Europe and the Middle East, energy self-sufficient, low interest rates, and low prices. What a terrible guy. I like what Vivek is saying. I'd like to do what Perot said too, but it was too smart. What do you mean by that? We need to not divide the vote. What do you mean by it was too smart? Interesting. Oh yeah, you did. Fair enough. MJ says, I think that Perot caused us to have Clinton. That is what I've heard. Again, this was before I was paying attention to stuff like that. And then MJ says, interesting point here. All right, interesting point from MJ. Let's check it out. And you're all starting to see more Hillary posts on Twitter, like the campaign types where she's attacking Trump. So no, but also I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to use Twitter more because it's definitely, for the brand. I got to get myself out there. Like, we're streaming on Twitter right now, but so I'll say no. But anyone else, have you guys seen that? That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense that she still, has her corporate gigs that gets her paid and whatever. Not that she needs any more money. And that would still be on brand for her to be talking like that. But I haven't seen that. I've definitely seen a lot of anti-Trump stuff, but just specifically from her, not specifically. Johnny says, have you gone on any other podcast to get your name out there more? You got the talent to be a big channel, bro. Keep at it. Thank you, Johnny. So I have, yeah, I do, a couple guest spots here and there. It is tough though. So if you know anybody who is willing to have me on, drop my name in their comments. The algorithm's feeding your post. Maybe you're a secret Hillary fan. Maybe. All right, let's see where. Let's back this up a little bit. Oh, yeah. Using
those Disney movies and iPhones as Trojan horses to undermine the United States from within.
So just talking about basically TikTok in a nutshell.
So that is the problem.
Thank you again, Johnny.
The concentration of state power and corporate power that lends itself to capture, facing down a threat far more deep and dangerous than anything we've faced in our nation's history.
Mm-hmm. And so when he's talking about capture, I believe what he is talking about is the idea that, look at the Bud Light thing, where Bud Light feels like, number one, they have to have somebody like Dylan Mulvaney, advertising for them. And then number two, when there's a huge pushback from that, and not just from, staunch Republicans, just everyday people, they are captured in the sense that they can't say, oh man, we screwed up. We are definitely never going with Dylan Mulvaney again, because then they're captured by the left. That would end them. Unfortunately, the left is way, way, way more organized than the right. At least the people, way more organized. I mean, it's because they all think the same thing or don't think at all. But the fact is, they are more organized, and they do have more social power when it comes to taking down entire corporations. Not the first time, and they could. David says, I never thought of it in that way. The Bud Light situation. It is true. Yeah, man. That is why it's such a big, again, as many times, not yet. As much as it could be, a little bit of a silly thing, we know that this is a way to get a bit of that organizational power and focus it on our message. It's not about, oh, well, there was a Hishi on the can. That's not what it's about. It's about you deciding to use somebody whose main audience is 13 to 15-year-olds to sell alcohol. And on top of that, everything you stand for is straight degeneracy. I said, MJ might be a secret Hillary fan. She said, please. I am definitely not a Hillary fan. I've been annoyed with her since the 90s. Fair enough.
The Soviet Union,
again,
deep and dangerous than anything we've faced in our nation's history. The Soviet Union did not supply the shoes on our feet or the phones in our pocket. That is what makes our unique moment far more complicated than anything I think we faced in the latter half of the 20th century. So where do we go from here? We'll jump back in on that. MJ says, are you saying that that Bud Light is now in a blackmail situation? You must continue the course even though it is going to harm you because we, being the left, will harm you more. Yeah, precisely. What's her name? On The View. My mind is blanket. What is her name? Whoopi Goldberg. She specifically said, don't fear them, fear us. And this is exactly what she was talking about. Whoa! Oh my goodness. I
I think we've got a new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so much. The DKK 89 from our man Dan Jensen, peanut butter banana. That's right. Every super chat comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you so much, brother. I really do appreciate that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. Everybody give a shout out to Dan in the chat. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, let me do some math here and get you in the banner here and let's see what we got. I have that on my playlist. I haven't had time to go through it, but I'm seeing this. I'm definitely doing that first thing tomorrow.
My first view is that not all solutions will be delivered or ought to be delivered through politics. I think that market actors can play a role. Part of the concentration of power starts with the inappropriate government-coordinated concentration of capital. The three largest financial institutions and asset managers in this country are BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, three institutions who together manage about $20 trillion. That is about as much money as the United States GDP in three hands, the largest aggregation of capital in private hands in human history, certainly in American history. And yet all of those firms are using that money, with due respect, probably including money of most of you in this room, to vote for racial equity audits at companies like Apple or Scope 3 emissions caps at companies like Chevron.
Thank you again, Dan.
Political and social agendas that nobody voted for, using the money of everyday citizens to advance one-sided agendas that most of those everyday citizens actually disagree with.
All right, how about just we don't want to make him fat, but we'll give him a little one just because Dan is so awesome. Always. Oh, well, we'll make sure you guys got to see it. It's the C in it. Just because Dan is so awesome and supports me nonstop. And I mean, you guys don't like when I get mushy, but man, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you again. Well, we're stopped. Let's get some of these comments. MJ says, my brother used to work at a State Street Co-Council, but they exported all their jobs to India. That was the legal department in State Street. That doesn't sound like a good thing. That doesn't sound like it's good for Americans. I don't know. All right. Give me one more. What are you saying?
All of those firms are using that money,
right.
with due respect, probably including money of most of you in this room, to vote for racial equity audits at companies like Apple or Scope 3 emissions caps at companies like Chevron, implementing political and social agendas that nobody voted for, using the money of everyday citizens to advance one-sided agendas that most of those everyday citizens actually disagree with. Actually, there's a really funny twist in this story. BlackRock is actually the firm that causes firms like Exxon and Chevron to drop oil production projects here at home. You might wonder if this might actually serve as at least one small step forward in the march against global climate change.
No.
Even then, you'd be wrong, because it turns out many of those same projects are still proceeding, only under different ownership. Under the ownership of the likes of PetroChina, who's buying up the very projects that Chevron is dropping. And then you look up who's one of the largest foreign shareholders of PetroChina. And it's actually none other than BlackRock, using Chinese citizens' capital to own that company.
This reminds me of, I don't know if you guys have seen these two Zoomer kids that are blowing up on TikTok. No surprise, because they are, they're plants from the DNC, and they're like, we haven't gotten paid $1 from Joe Biden or anything. Their parent company specifically gives money, a lot of money, to the DNC, and it's not like they're just pro Biden. They're like straight. I mean, why not? Why not? We got the time. This is a short. Does anybody know their names? TikTok, Biden, influencers. I forget what their names are. Oh, come on. Where's Harley? I need a fact check. TikTok. TikTokers. TikTokers paid by these guys. Okay. Let me just get. All right, whatever. So let's just check this. These are the guys that I'm talking about. So they say that they're not plants, and then they do this.
Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken. So I shot a gun for the first time today, and I've always been told by Republicans that after the first time, I'll be in favor of guns and I'll want more guns. But for me, it was the exact opposite. I realized how powerful these guns are, and at a moment's notice, they can be used to take someone's life. And the fact that in many states in this country, you can walk into one of these stores and 10 minutes later walk out with an AR-15 is absurd. This experience made me want more gun control, not less.
Haram! So these kind of, I mean, these are, they go on and on and on and on and on. To think that it's not like, again, it's not like they are, and there's one specifically that is like, there's no way, it doesn't matter that Biden's old. He's the only way we can go. It has to be Biden, 2024, let's go. It's like, bro, even though there's, Joe Biden isn't specifically writing you a check, doesn't mean that you are not financially incentivized to do what you're doing. And to suggest otherwise is lying. It's lying. Yeah, David's saying there goes his national support. But again, Trump was saying the same kind of stuff. He definitely didn't have a name like Ramaswamy, but it's a big club and you are not in it. MJ says they only kept a couple units. Oh, we got that one already. Yep. So, all right, let's do a poll. How many believe that there is a small group, either family or businesses, that are at the top of all businesses? And so it doesn't matter which business fails. They own them all. So that's a little bit too long for the poll, but let's just do it this way. We'll keep this up for a minute. Put a 1 if you agree, if you believe, and put a 2 if you do not believe. So I'll put that back up. 1 if you believe, 2 if you don't believe. We're going to get to some others, and then I'll put that up as we go back into the video. It would be awful to find out that Bud Light losses are now in Coors and Miller, that Bud and Coors Miller are just controlled by the elite, and they still manage to increase their sales. That's not the point. That is besides the point. Most other beers that you're going to buy are owned by Anheuser-Busch. So the idea here is not to bankrupt Bud Light. That's not going to happen. The idea here is not to bankrupt one of the biggest alcohol companies in the world. That is not going to happen. The purpose of the boycott is to send a message that if you align with, so I'll put this back up. And again, 1 if you believe, 2 if you do not believe. The point is to send that message that if you decide to take a side in this culture war against conservative values, you will feel it. If you take the side of the leftists, the LGBT stuff, the Pride Month, the diversity, equity, inclusion, all of that stuff, there has been no pushback, and it is changing the culture. And so now we have an opportunity that you can very, 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 very easily participate in sending a message. All you have to do is not buy Bud Light. Even if you are buying Budweiser, it doesn't matter. They're still going to get their money. They might have a little dip. People are going to buy the dip. The stock's going to go back up. That's not the point. So don't make it about, whether or not they're increasing sales. That doesn't matter. They already won that game. They've already won that game. The game they haven't won is saying we can do whatever we want. We can spit in your face and still expect you to give us your money. We can tell you that we don't like you. We can tell you that we think you're stupid. We can tell you that we want to leave you behind. And we still expect that you will give us your money. Why? Because until now, that is exactly what has been happening. And so finally, it's about sending that message that no more. We are not going to stand for this anymore. And that maybe it's not going to bankrupt you, but it's certainly going to hurt your pockets. It's certainly going to put you in an awkward position. So think about who you want to align yourself with in the realm of politics before you do it. Otherwise, just be a beer. Just be a product. Just be a razor. Talking about Gillette. Just be chocolate. Talking about Hershey's. That would be hedging your bet, but that's not at all what it's about. They're going to get their money anyway. And I don't know how long the Bud Light boycott is going to. What are you doing, Lord? I don't know how long it's actually going to last, but that it's about the message. It's a principled stance. Any film says all those kids in their 20s are really big fighting fans. What is that in response to? I don't remember. So we polled how many believe that there's a small group of either family or businesses that are at the top of all businesses, and it doesn't matter which business fails, they own them all. So MJ is a believer. Indie Film says no. David Banner is a believer. Dan Jensen is also a believer. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by this, Indie Film. If you want to expand a little bit. Those kids. Duh. Sorry, just forgot what. All right, so I'm with you. Okay. Veronica says those kids don't know what they're talking about. All they are supporting is a takeover from communist parties. I wouldn't even go that far. All they're supporting is the things they're told to support. Did any one of those look like it wasn't scripted? Did any one of those look like it's just like something that 18, 20-year-old could just know out of nowhere and be confident enough to be taken seriously? Like, obviously, 20-year-olds are confident about everything. But how could you possibly think that's organic? So MJ says, but then we're seeing more sales between Coors and Miller than Bud Light lost. So the beer organization is selling more beer, period. Yes. That's why we're not focusing on their, trying to bankrupt them. They're going to get their money. We are sending a message that if you align with things that are not okay with American society, you will feel it in your bottom line. It says, I think young people do think that way, but they don't understand that infringing upon your own rights is a slippery slope. Exactly. It's all about this idea like, well, if we could just have everybody act the same way, then it would totally be cool. It's like, yeah, but in order to get everybody to act the same way, you have to do that at gunpoint. Then you will still be okay with your rights being changed. No, they will not. They will not. Yeah. Scripted as F. Oh, Biden fans. No, I mean, they could be, but scripted AF. And yeah, they don't believe in any of these things. They can't know enough to be that confident. They could feel that way. That's fine. Have your opinions and talk about them. But it's so obvious. Like, how dumb? Well, I guess that's a two-part question. How dumb do they think we are? And how dumb are the people that are actually like, oh, wow, these kids are just so smart coming out of nowhere? Come on. All right, let's see.
Is dropping, and then you look up who's one of the largest foreign shareholders of PetroChina.
Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening.
It's actually none other than BlackRock using Chinese citizens' capital to own that company instead. That's how deep this problem runs. But market actors can make a difference.
Yeah. So again, just to use the example of the kids again, the same way that they are not getting paid by the Biden specifically, they're getting paid through their management company, which then gets paid through the DNC. The same way that the Petro China, or whatever you said, is getting paid through BlackRock.
This is why I founded Strive. little over a year ago to compete with BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, using shareholder power, the money of everyday citizens, to deliver a different message to corporate America, to tell companies to focus exclusively on excellence over politics, on making excellent products and services for your customers without apology, and yes, making money in the process, maximizing value for your shareholders
Always
without
follow the
apology,
money.
and to dilute the power exercised by this small handful of actors. We're about a year into this. I'll tell you that when JP Morgan Chase got into the exchange-traded funds business, it took them over a year, over 2 years actually, to cross $1 billion in assets under management. We crossed 500 million, $500 million in our first 3 months. Nice. I hope that this is just the beginning of a bottom-up revolution. I remember when we talked about this the last time I came here, we hadn't even gotten started, Dr. Arnn, and we're well on our way to hopefully driving that change through the corporate sector.
Wow. So another thing that I'm noticing as I'm listening to this guy is that, you know, because he has a history, and not in just business, but what did he say? Biotechnology or something like that. He has a deep understanding of both business and politics. Whereas, you know, Trump was and is a great businessman. He didn't have that decorum that you need to get what you want done. And he did get a lot done. You know, best president in my lifetime. But there's more to be done. And the question still stands, is he the one to do it? And as of right now, it does seem like a yes. But I personally would rather see, at this point in time, Vivek. MJ said, so he kind of scares me as if he is another Enron or Theranos. Yeah, they're all over the place. They're all, one will fall, one will get exposed, and then another one will pop up. And likely, going back to your poll question, it's probably the same people. And I don't know what you can do about it. Hey, we got Sterling in the building. Welcome to the party. Some hands and a cross. Hope you have a nice day as well. Welcome to the party. We are checking out Vivek Ramaswamy for the first time. I've never really heard of him before. Well, I heard of him and I saw a couple clips, but never in depth. Welcome to the party.
But market solutions alone are not going to be enough to spawn the national revival that we need. I think we need an awakening of a new conservative movement, a new American movement in this country that answers that question that our generation longs for. What does it mean to be an American in the year 2023?
Again, coming back to the same thing, American identity. It has been lost because people either identify as religious or they identify as a gender.
What?
That's not the way it's supposed to go. You can have your ideas of whatever you want, but as Americans, we are supposed to have something in common. And right now, all that is, or seems to be at least, is the fact that we live on the same continent. Or in the country, you know what I mean?
Our inner animal spirit has been domesticated. It has been tamed by this new culture that rejects truth and embraces relativism, that rejects God and embraces secularism, that rejects...
Oh, come on, man. I mean, all right, I'll give him one. He brought up God, and that's fair. You're a Republican candidate, you know, whatever. But MJ, don't we all hate taxes? We are all hunted by the IRS snipers. There was somebody was, I'm going to butcher this. I probably shouldn't even bring it up because I'm probably not even going to get it across properly. But there was somebody who was making the point that because it's technically not constitutional or something, that you can, you know, if you don't pay your taxes and you can get it to the Supreme Court, that you could just not have to ever pay taxes based on, you know, the letter of the law or something. I don't know. Like I said, I'm butchering it, but that would be awesome. That would be awesome if you're just like, actually, no.
Democracy and embraces aristocracy.
Okay.
that rejects free speech and embraces censorship, that rejects equality of opportunity and embraces equity of results, that rejects excellence and embraces victimhood.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one. Embracing victimhood. This is why I'm so upset with Crowder. One of the biggest things that we talk about in this media space is how bad it is to embrace victimhood and how far it has spread that's how people get attention. And again, we live in the attention economy. And they do that by just perpetually victimizing themselves. And then what does Crowder do? For months straight, he's just victimizing himself for this and that and that and that and that and that. I will say that since I first talked about it, there was some sketchiness with the video that his wife put out. So I will, I will keep my eyes and mind open this week, as he said he's going to be dropping more stuff about that. But I'm already kind of done. Anyfilm says, I think it was a libertarian candidate for president who said that you are not allowed to incriminate your... Yes. That's exactly what it was. You're not allowed to incriminate yourself because of the Fourth Amendment. The IRS makes you do your own taxes. That was exactly it. I don't... So maybe it was on Dave Smith's podcast, Part of the Problem. The libertarian Jesus, as they call him. But yes, the idea that you can't incriminate yourself. If you're doing your taxes, you're incriminating yourself. Or rather, if you do your taxes wrong, you're incriminating yourself. But you're not allowed to do that. But, who cares? The government can do whatever they want. All right, MJ said, isn't it funny that we are the only living intelligent creatures in the solar system, as far as we're able to detect, and we limit speech? It seems too ridiculous to me when I think the situation, when looking at the entirety of the universe. It's a very small-minded way of thinking, because limiting speech essentially is sending the message that we have everything figured out. Because what is conversation, especially in politics? What is conversation but looking to solve issues, looking to improve society? If you are shutting down conversations, then you're shutting down the ability to help. And if you don't think that we need to help, then you must think that everything is perfect. And I don't know if you've seen places like LA or Seattle or Portland, we saw that the homeless encampments have been encroaching into Beverly Hills. There's a lot to be done. And that's just on the surface. When we go into the culture, that arguably is even more broken.
That inner animal, it has leapt oceans to lift up countries like China on the other side of the world, while their culture of Maoist victimhood has leapt oceans in the other directions to hold us back. You know what I say? When we rallied, many of us did, behind the cry to make America great again, I don't think we hungered for a single man. I think we hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence in our country.
Bars. That is how you take that. Because Trump is going to, act like MAGA is him. And he just undercut that with one sentence. Because now, if Trump's to say, like, oh, no, I'm MAGA, you're not, I'm not, he wouldn't say it like that. But the idea is that MAGA is an idea that's bigger. I just said the idea than the idea. But the concept is that the idea of MAGA is bigger than just one guy. And Trump, coming from Vivek's perspective, Trump had his chance. He went in there, he did his thing, he ran again, and he lost. It's not about Trump. It's about making America great again. I like that.
Thank you.
Big ups, big ups.
This is deeply personal to me.
I said, shit, me too.
I told you about my parents. They came here in the late 70s and early 80s, respectively. I was born in the mid 80s. Had I been born 20 years earlier in this country, I don't think my story would have been possible, not in the same way. But what worries me is that had I been born 20 years later, I'm not sure my story would have been possible either.
Dan, why do you say this? Is paranoia is strong, Vivek? What do you I didn't hear anything about paranoia. What are you referring to? Sterling says, awesome channel, man. Thank you so much. I am glad you are here. Make sure you subscribe. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I drop shorter videos every single day. Plus, we also have our Discord server, because the party never needs to end. There's a link in the description. It's always open. We're always hanging out in there. And then after every live stream, we always go in there and do an after show. Definitely come join us. Thank you for the kind words. Dan says, listen to him when he talks about China. I mean, is it paranoia or is it awareness? Where's the difference between paranoia and awareness if there is an actual threat? Are you suggesting that China is not a threat to the U.S.? Because, I mean, I'd love to hear that argument. I'm not, you guys know I'm not great with geopolitics. So if you have that argument, I would love to believe that China is not an issue for the U.S. But unfortunately, I think they are our biggest, the biggest thing that we have to worry about. So maybe I'm as paranoid as him, or maybe we're just observant.
You see, to me, the American dream, it's not just about going from being middle class or not rich to making a lot of money. The American dream is about a conviction in your agency as an individual, a belief that you are more than the tectonic plates of group identity that move you, the genetics that brought you into this world, a conviction in your purpose as a citizen. That is really what the American dream means to me.
Did you hear? Did you hear what I heard? Did you hear what I heard? Let's listen to it again, and I'll point it out for you.
About a conviction
the American dream,
or agency as an individual.
Your agency,
a belief that you are more than the tectonic plates of group identity.
A belief. That's faith. That's not knowledge. Knowledge and belief are two different things. But that's okay. Because number one, you can question the belief that you are more than the tectonic plates of group identity. And number two, you can see how society is playing out. So I'm just bringing that up because those of you who don't know that I am an atheist. I don't believe in God, but I very much respect and want Christian values to be the bedrock of how our country works. A belief that you are more than tectonic plates of group identity. Why is that not the central part of the American identity instead of a belief in Yahweh? Just saying.
That move you, the genetics that brought you into this world, a conviction in your purpose as a citizen. That is really what the American dream means to me. And for me as a kid who grew up with the funny last name, nerdy glasses, skinny kid with a dad who had a funny accent in Southwest Ohio when I grew up.
I mean, I didn't have glasses, but again, that was pretty much me.
Merit and achievement was our ticket ahead. You know what? If you're going to, thank you very much. If you're going to be that kid who stands out from the group, you might as well be outstanding.
Ooh, this man's got bars. He said, if you are going to be the one that stands out, you might as well be outstanding. I love it.
My parents taught me, okay, to get ahead through hard work, that hardship is not the same thing as victimhood, that there is more to life than self-indulgence, that in today's terms, there's more to life and there's a greater point than figuring out your gender. There are things to do, things to be accomplished in the world.
He's going off.
Much to do in the short time we have been given. That is the American dream. Those are the values that brought my parents to this country and that they instilled in us today.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah. I will tell you one thing. As much as I find Trump to be extremely entertaining, I find him to be generally, as far as politicians go, honest. I have never been, this what's the word? Gung-ho, I guess. I've never been this gung-ho for a politician in my life before. Again, this is only the first I'm hearing of him. I don't know anything about the skeletons he may or may not have in his closet. But this is working for me. Victimhood absolutely is often a choice. And unfortunately, that choice comes with a lot of benefits in this society. Again, the attention society. Lay down, mama. I got to hear that again. That was a bar and a half. That was a bar and a half.
That's what my parents taught me. You pretty much, if you're going to be that kid who stands out from the group, you might as well be outstanding. That's what my parents taught me, okay?
Good parents.
To get ahead through hard work, that hardship is not the same thing as victimhood.
Hardship is not the same thing as victimhood. Just because you go through things that aren't easy doesn't mean you are a victim. That's just life. Get over it and do better.
That there is more to life than self-indulgence. That
there's more to life than self-indulgence. Now, that sounds very much in line with Christian values. So why are so many people not vibing with the idea that there's more to life than self-indulgence? Could it perhaps maybe be that this idea has been gatekept by religion? Veronica's with it.
In today's terms, there's more to life and there's a greater point than figuring out your gender. There are things to do, things to be accomplished in the world. We have much to do in the short time we have been given. That is the American dream. Those are the values that brought my parents to this country and that they instilled in us today.
I love this.
We should want more people like that entering this country. We would do well to restore meritocracy in who gets into this country.
Oh, smooth switch over to immigration. Smooth like butter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see. I mean, I'm trying to just, get my own thoughts of immigration, where I think he's going to go. I mean, long story short, I think right now we have too many people in this country. I do not think that necessarily means that we need to halt all immigration. What I do think it means is that we definitely need better border security. We also need, I think, a stricter, there's a lot of people aren't necessarily sneaking across the border. They're getting visas and then just staying. So I think there needs to be, if we are going to have a government that does stuff, checking up on visas might be one of the things that helps. But it's not even those people who are necessarily, dragging down the system. So that comes to, border security. I mean, what else? I think the legal immigration process is already very strict, as it should be. But the fact is, resources are finite. We only have so much stuff. And call me an American supremacist, but I want Americans taken care of first. And I know I'm not the only one, because that's why America first has become such a common thing. Arna says, you may be someone's victim, but if you play that out, death is a great possibility because it will eat you alive. Well said. Well said. It will eat you alive. Dan says, how is his stance on war? Anybody know? I do not, but I hope he's an isolationist. I hope he's an isolationist. Maybe he will get into it. But right now I'm talking about immigration. So that's basically where I stand on immigration, that, illegal immigration needs to be halted to the greatest degree, because we do want to bring immigrants to this country. We do want people from other countries. We just want the good people from other countries.
My parents, they worked hard. They paid their taxes. They followed the rules. They raised 2 kids who went on to found companies that employed thousands of people and improved the lives of thousands of Americans. That is a good thing.
Yeah.
They made sacrifices to raise a family. Through their example, taught us that there is more to leadership than just following your latest whim.
And even on that, before he goes on to another tangent, the idea that his parents came to this country and created jobs for so many people and created a company that had so much value that is how wealth is created. So absolutely, we want immigrants here. We just want the right kind of people. If you're born here, then you get a ticket. You get a free ticket, whether you deserve it or not. That's just how it has to work. Everybody has to have a home somewhere. But we can't just take in everybody. We would love to be able to fix everything in the world. But that's not how it works. MJ says, because we have the snake of the garden whispering in our ears. Is that a religious reference? Yeah, I mean, it's this victim mentality is so detrimental. That's one of the other, I mean, I think that victim mentality comes down to the same things of dogmatic thinking and semantic obfuscation, being able to use words to victimize yourself and not being willing to question the idea that you are, in fact, that victim. I think it's still the same thing, but getting a little bit deeper than, it's this and that, then those two things causing the victim mentality, huge issue. And I think, now that we're talking about that, between MJ and Veronica, I'm gonna really take some time to think about what we can do about that, what we can do to directly, I don't want to say address this victim mentality or this prevalence of the victim mentality, because it's eating them alive, but it's eating our country alive as well.
That you have to make a sacrifice to be in a marriage, that you have to make a sacrifice to be a father and a mother, but that those sacrifices are worth it because it is in service of something greater than yourself. Those are the immigrants we want, rather than people whose first act of entering this country
is a crime.
Is by definition a law-breaking one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I speak as a first-generation American when I say this.
Me too.
We need to secure that border unapologetically and restore meritocracy over lawlessness in determining not only who gets into America, but then who gets ahead in America. Revive our conviction. Thank you.
Yeah, clap it up.
That Martin Luther King was right. That you get ahead in America, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. It's going to say something that's going to be very difficult for a lot of people to swallow, but that means that when the Supreme Court overturns affirmative action in college admissions, as I hope and expect they will later this year, every college in the country may follow the Hillsdale way. But not just every college in the country, every institution in this country, moving beyond the de facto racism that has defined our hiring practices, our merit practices in the private sector and in every other sphere of American life. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Affirmative action actually started its spread in America with the actions of the federal government itself, where most bad things often begin. There's a Johnson-era executive order, and not a lot of people know this. It's been a national cancer on our soul. Under Lyndon,
he said cancer too many times. Not everything can be a cancer. Wokeism can be a cancer. Victimization can be a cancer, but not everything can be a cancer. You got to fix that. You got to tighten that one up.
Johnson, an executive order, it's 11246. What it says is, that if you're doing business with the federal government, if you're a government contractor, that might sound like a side category. No, it's over 20% of the US workforce, from Boeing to Google, are encompassed by this executive order. If you do any business with the government, you have to adopt racial quota systems in your hiring practices.
Gotcha.
We have 3 Republican presidents since who could have rescinded that with a stroke of a pen. They each chose not to because of the fear of political backlash.
Again, the fear, the greatest motivator there is.
I think there's an opportunity in this country to not only overturn affirmative action in college admissions, but to eradicate it in every sphere of our lives.
Based.
Starting with the actions and the example of the federal government itself.
Yeah, MJ is spot on. People are choosing victimhood or self-gratification, and the idea that everything is somebody else's fault. And not only that, but somebody else is supposed to fix it. It's not my fault that I'm in this situation. And it's also not my responsibility to fix my situation. So because somebody else has a better situation, that inherently makes me a better person. This is how they think. This is how normal people have begun to think. Why? Because morality has been gatekept. And like he said, people without a religion, many of us against our own will. Remember, I was brought up in the Catholic Church, confirmed in the Methodist Church, and I lost my faith trying to get closer to God. Believe me or don't. I mean, I can only be honest with you. It seems easier not to take responsibility. It is easier. It's way easier to say, it's not my fault that I'm here, and it's not my responsibility to fix it. But then you get a society in decline. Then you get America 2023. Roger says it may not always be your fault, but it is always your responsibility. I love that. Absolutely. It may not be your fault. Shit happens. But it is always your responsibility. Simply because it cannot be anybody else's. Everybody else's responsibility is to themselves. And the liberal idea that we need to fix everybody else often misses the notion that if everybody was taking responsibility for themselves, was being accountable to themselves, then there wouldn't be so many people who were thinking like this and asking for government handouts instead of fixing their lives. But no, that makes too much sense.
It's not just merit in who gets in and who gets ahead, but even meritocracy in government itself.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a Republican idea or a Democratic idea, but
I think he's going to go into career politicians and how it's crazy how you can just spend your entire life and not actually accomplish anything and still get voted into office and somehow make a lot more than your salary.
I have my own dream as an American, that the people who we elect to run the government are actually the people who run the government. Thank you.
Imagine that. Imagine the people we actually want representing us being the ones who represent us. Can't see it. I can't even see it.
May seem like that's not a lot to ask, but that's not the case today. Right? The next time you have an unelected bureaucrat like Anthony Fauci or Merrick Garland or James Comey, for that matter,
I got to do a whole retrospective on Fauci for the level of disdain that I have for Anthony Fauci. I need to go hard in this moment. Maybe I need to let a little bit more time go so that I don't have to worry about, getting my channel shadow banned and all that stuff. But oh my God, I do not like anybody on this earth less than Anthony Fauci. It just says, if you do business with the federal government, i.e. Medicare or Medicaid, then you and your contractors have to have had the jab. Makes sense. Makes sense. Even if you are not doing business with the federal government, a lot of people mandated in their jobs that you had to get it. Fear, lack of responsibility, victimhood, all that stuff. It all leads to the same thing.
Who wishes to exercise political power that no one elected them to exercise.
Thanks,
You need
boomers.
chief executives at the federal level and at the state level who will do what they're constitutionally empowered to do. To fire them. To fire the legions of people under them. To fire the managerial industrial complex around them. Because you know what? If somebody works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It means you work for them. It means you are their slave because you are accountable for what they do without having any responsibility for what they do.
That word, responsibility.
They will say that they have civil service protections in this country. Well, I personally view those as unconstitutional because Article 2 of the Constitution is higher in the hierarchy of our nation's laws than any law that Congress passed. But even if it were true that we have these civil service protections, it's got to be the top of a new conservative movement, a new pro-American movement's agenda in this country to repeal those civil service protections.
Hell yeah.
And if you ask me, replace them with sunset clauses instead. To say that if you can't be a federal employee as the president of the United States for more than 8 years, that you probably shouldn't be an employee of the federal government for more than 8 years, no matter what position that you're serving in.
Exactly. And I know the other side to the issue with people who are, elected positions that don't have, when you insert term limits, then there's a lot more campaigning that needs to go on. I don't think that is ideal, but I am willing to, I'm willing for more of my tax dollars going towards finding the right people than having less of my more tax dollars in my pocket and getting screwed in every other way and inflation throughout the roof. I think it would be better to have more campaigning, shorter term limits, and make the time that you are in office, you have to do something. MJ says, I agree. I'm for term limits in federal positions. It's crazy that that's not already how it works. And again, I get that it makes sense that they want, what we call the deep state. They want some type of consistency that, it's not different people all the time. There is something to be said about having people who have been in that office for a long time learning that. But I just think there's a better way to transfer that knowledge, power, experience, all of that stuff. Career politicians never do anything good. Like, name something, a career politician who, who's just like in Congress that has really changed America in a good way. I realize that opens up opportunities for dark horse people to pop in and wreck it for a while, but it would at least be for a limited time. Exactly. And we already have those dark horse people, but then they get in. And, David Banner's favorite, AOC, she can get in and she raises money from all across the country, even though she represents federally her district in New York. And she can just continue going as long as she gets elected again. Whoever has more money wins. And she's fundraising from everywhere. Everywhere.
And bring that fresh lifeblood, not just into our country, but into our federal government. Now,
exactly.
One of the areas where I care about meritocracy is not just who rules in government, but the ideas that prevail in our society and in our government too.
I like that.
And we can only have a meritocracy of ideas in America if we embrace one of the foundational cornerstones of the great American experiment, and that is free speech. Free speech is a precondition, you see it right here, for the pursuit of truth. I personally believe free speech is also a precondition for peace in America?
Ooh. So MJ says, we used to be an English colony. Government officials had a great examples to follow. Fair enough, yeah. But what did he just say? Free speech is a precondition for peace. If you are not allowed to speak your piece, you will make yourself known by other means. Now, those other means could be as simple as a Bud Light boycott, or it could be taking an entire summer to burn cities down. Free speech is a precondition for peace in America. That means we cannot achieve peace without free speech. That's, again, a bar. Change how you have to campaign. Yeah, I would definitely change. Yeah, like how early and long it can be done. A lot needs to change there. But I mean, term limits would be a good start, at least. I think we can all agree on that.
Because if you tell people they cannot speak, that is when they scream. But you tell people they can't scream, that is when they tear things down.
Yup.
Today, we have in this country a form of censorship that's not what a lot of people on cable television like to call it, big tech censorship. I call it what it really is. It is government tech censorship. It is the government using private companies to do through the back door what government could not do through the front door under the Constitution, to censor politically disfavored speech.
Just going through the back door. Going through the back door. We have this whole democratic republic set up, but there's a back door if you need it.
We need to abandon the slogans we memorized in 1980 saying that these are private companies free to decide what does and doesn't show up on their website. That's true if they're behaving as private companies. But if they're doing the dirty work of government, if it is state action in disguise,
haram,
then the Constitution still applies, and these companies ought to be bound by the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States when they're coordinating with the government to do what the government itself could not do directly.
Absolutely. So a lot of this is, we were talking about Twitter. That's the big thing with Twitter. People are complaining about, getting banned for this and that. And the answer, the argument is always, well, they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. Well, then we get the Twitter files and we see that, yes, while they are technically a private company, speaking of back doors, they have multiple back doors to all the ABC agencies. So if you are working in conjunction to that degree, then just because you are filed as a private company doesn't mean that your company is private. Semantic obfuscation. So Veronica said, it is, but the problem is that we've lost ways of communicating. So I'm not sure, again, what you mean by this, because we definitely have more ways to communicate. It's just, I think the manner in which we communicate has been lost. Is that what you mean? Are we saying the same thing? Am I nitpicking here? MJ says, we should have a block on the date that someone can say that they're going to run. You can't say before the set time and date. And you have the exact amount of time to run the campaign. So everyone has to stop campaigning at the same time, way before the vote. I like where you're going with this, but think about the Hunter laptop story. No, I guess that wouldn't really. I guess that doesn't have to do with campaigning, does it? Sounds like a good idea. Does anybody have an idea of why this would be bad? Because that was the first thing I was thinking, is that, stuff comes up, but that's not specifically campaigning. So I think this is a great idea. You should have a block on the date that someone can say that they are going to run. You can't say before that date and that set date and time, and you have the exact amount of time to run the campaign. So everyone has to stop campaigning at the same time, way before we vote. Sounds like a good idea to me. Veronica said, so before she was saying we have less ways to communicate. And I wasn't sure if I was nitpicking and if I completely agree or if not. So she said, why do toddlers fight and scream as a way to communicate? Because they don't have the words or emotional intelligence to do it. Gotcha. Yeah. So we're on the same page. All right. You know me. I'm a nitpicker. I'm going to nitpick. Revolutionary War and new country might be coming. Don't joke about it. Might be here. It would be a civil war, but it definitely would be a war that is revolutionary. Veronica says, not about what is right anymore. Truth is power. It's not about what's right anymore. It's about who can be louder, even if they make no sense. There's no truth, but power. And we know this. We know that the people pushing the woke, specifically the woke trans agenda at the corporate level, it's a very small group of people who are very, very loud on Twitter and other places. And they get their way, which again is precisely why we need to have our own loud voices when it comes to things like Dylan Mulvaney and having a person who, number one, stands for degeneracy. Number two, puts that degeneracy in front of children. I would guess the average age of people who are fans of Dylan are probably between 12 and 15 on average. And then you have them selling alcohol. Come on. Like, talk about the trifecta.
To be bound by the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States when they're coordinating with the government to do what the government itself could not do.
So you're just saying, just like how Twitter, they're a private company, but not really.
Directly. Thank you.
Woo!
But our censorship culture, it's not just limited to the internet. It extends into the workforce and into our economy.
Oh,
the
yeah.
number of individuals in the American workforce who were fired for saying the wrong thing at work, wearing the hat of the wrong political candidate, posting the wrong thing on social media, showing up at the wrong political rally. Staggering over the last 3 years.
Lots of people.
Is that if you can't fire somebody or deplatform somebody on account of their race or their sex or their sexual orientation or their religion or their national origin, then you should not be able to fire somebody or deplatform somebody on account of their political speech either. I personally believe we need to make political expression a civil right in this country, right up there next to the other protected classes. Thank you.
Yeah, MJ, that's what I was saying. I really like your idea. I really like that thought about a specific time or a time period where you can campaign. Today, everybody who's going to run, you have to announce today at 2 p.m. Eastern. And all official campaigning has to end on, let's say September or something at this time. And then I was bringing up the Hunter laptop story. I was like, well, that's not campaigning. That's just the news. Or it would have been if they didn't block it. The private companies.
Now there's a 1980 version of the conservative in me, okay, that would say that these are private businesses, that we shouldn't want to interfere, that we should leave this to the market, that if these businesses over here want to fire these great conservatives, that's an opportunity for these other businesses to hire them instead. Leave it to the market, no more regulation. You know what I said there's certain logic to that, but you cannot have it both ways. Okay? If you want to go back and repeal those protected classes and really leave it to the market in the year 2023 to do its work, great. I'll be right there with you. But so long as we're not doing that, we have to apply these standards even-handedly to say that if you...
So new poll is if you didn't know, then that's just 0. So if you're at +1, that's better. If you didn't know and you're at -1, that's worse.
Can't fire somebody or deplatform somebody because they're black or gay or Muslim or white or Christian or Jewish or Hindu or whatever.
Hurrah!
That you should not be able to fire them just because they're an outspoken conservative or an outspoken liberal either. We need to apply these standards even-handedly.
I like that he brought up the liberals as well. Because as I was just doing in my my live video yesterday about Ben Shapiro saying that we should make it illegal locally, that local ordinances could do something about men wearing dresses. That's not the America that I live in or want to live in. It's not about just taking the wins because they are wins. It's about doing what is right and what is morally right and what is right for America. And arresting men for wearing dresses or fining, whatever you want to do, and then they don't pay the fine, and then what? Somebody with a gun shows up to your house and kidnaps you and puts you in a cell. That's what that means, and that is what he said. If you didn't see that, go check out that video. So relating to the poll, I know more about Vivek now than I did before, but I still would want more, and I'm still not sure it is this time. That's not the question. That's not the question, and that is fair. I'm right there with you. Like I said, this is the first time I'm hearing of him as well in a long form outside of that a couple of exchanges, like the Chuck Todd one and the Don Lemon one. But based on what he has said, are you feeling better or worse about him from the in the last 2 hours and 5 minutes?
And I don't think we even need to wait for legislatures to act, though for the last 2 years I've been calling on them to. I think that there's rampant breaches of existing civil rights laws as they exist.
Yeah, I'm going to back this up because this is an important comment. But I'm going to say people don't do what you just did. Ask what they mean. People don't know how to agree to disagree. People just want to be offended. And you see me when was it you or was it MJ? I apologize. We were saying something. Oh, yeah. You were saying when you said this, and I jumped down. I was ready to nitpick. And I'm like, whoa. We have tons of ways of communicating. It's just the way we communicate. And then turns out that that's exactly what you meant. People are so ready to not just be offended, but be defensive. People are not looking for conversation. They're looking for argument. And in an argument, there's a winner and a loser. And so instead of people trying to learn about new ideas, learn about other people, learn about anything, they just want to be right. I'm doing my best to try to network and bring more people and do conversations and debates here. And you will see me, and especially if you're in the Discord, we say it all the time, that stop trying to win an argument and just have the conversation. If your ideas are that good, then you don't need to fight that hard. I'm here with an open mind. Convince me based on the merits, as Vivek has been talking about, the merits of your idea. If you're using underhand and tactics and strawman and appeals to unqualified authority and ad hominems, just calling people's names, then you're not looking to do anything except win. And win what? Win an argument that in the grand scheme of things means nothing. But if you can turn that argument into a conversation where both of you learn, then it may not be that much in the grand scheme of things, but it only takes grains of sand to make a heap. People just want to be offended. So let's back this up. I missed what he was saying.
Standards even-handedly. And I don't think we even need to wait for legislatures to act, though for the last 2 years I've been calling on them to. I think that there's rampant breaches of existing civil rights laws as they exist in America already.
I do want to back that up. Because he said I've been asking them to intervene or do something, and I want to know. I would want to know more about that, because if he's talking about changing the Section 230 to make sure that Twitter doesn't get publisher protections with platform freedoms, I'm all about that. But again, I am not somebody who wants the government involved in our life in any place that it's not absolutely necessary. So let me check this back out.
And I don't think we even need to wait for legislatures to act, though for the last 2 years I've been calling on them to. I think that there's rampant breaches of existing civil rights laws as they exist in America already. I'll give you my favorite one. So the prohibition on religious discrimination under the Civil Rights.
Did I miss it? We definitely didn't hear this already.
I don't think we even need to wait for legislatures even-handedly. And I don't think we even need to wait for legislatures to act, though for the last 2 years I've been calling on them to.
That's what I mean. Legislature to act? In what way do you mean? Because I could either be completely on board or be like, no. That's the difference between a Republican and a libertarian. So MJ said there are local laws about appropriate clothing in public. Not sure how strong or stable or at risk for being struck down by the courts. Yeah, I mean, there's laws about decency, not about fashion choices. I don't want fashion choices to be legislated. Hey, I'm 33 years old. I was in high school in 2005. I had multiple pairs of girl jeans. And it was cool. I was so cool. I was super cool. But that was the thing. That was in style. And now, trans is the new emo. It's if you don't have a personality, you just change your gender, and now you're somebody. And that's and that's what I mean. I don't think Ben would stand behind that. I really don't think. I think I don't know where it was from, but it looked like a small live stream that he was just doing from his laptop, and somebody asked the question, should we outlaw men wearing dresses and women wearing pants? And he was like, no, well, actually, there's women can wear pants, and it's, but men wearing, yeah, I'm sure there's something that local ordinances could do, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, bro, no. Oh, MJ in the building says Morty needs a snack. Oh, look, we got the very last beef jerky. Morty, you got to dance for it. Dance, boy, dance. Yay, good job. Thank you so much. MJ, much appreciated. And Morty appreciates it as well. That's right, guys. If you didn't know, every single donation comes with a treat for Morty. Thank you again, MJ. Uh-oh. Don't start with the struggle stream now. Can we just have one? Can we just have one day without a struggle stream? Oh, you know what? I figured it out.
Rampant breaches of existing civil rights laws as they exist in America already. I'll give you my favorite one. So the prohibition
I don't. Please share.
On religious discrimination under the civil rights statutes in this country. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. Doesn't just mean that you can't discriminate against an employee on account of their religion, but it also means that you as the employer, in most cases, cannot force your employee to bow down to your religion. Well, that then just raises the simple question of whether the modern woke agenda, DEI agenda in corporate America meets the Supreme Court's test for what counts as a religion.
Based. That is an argument that absolutely could be made. I don't think it would go that far just because wokeism has gone that deep into our institutions. But you can't force me to be a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, anything else. So how should you be able to force me to be to believe that males can turn into females? Making a lot of sense. And yes, MJ, I was saying the grand scheme of things, does anyone know where the phrase came from? Makes me laugh when we use it and don't remember the reference. I do not remember, so please let us know.
Turns out you go down the criteria the court has laid out, meets that test to a T. Certain words you can't say, clothes you can't wear, apologies you must recite, excommunication procedures that must be initiated. Secular humanism actually counts under the Supreme Court's standards for what counts as a religion. If that's the case, the modern woke agenda meets that test in spades. And
absolutely. Secular humanism is a religion? Secular humanism just means without any beliefs or metaphysical beliefs, rather. You have no metaphysical beliefs, but you believe that humankind and the well-being of humans is superior, and whatever we need to do to maximize that's secular humanism in a nutshell. I don't think there's any tenets of secular humanism. I could be wrong about that. Fact check me on that. But I'm pretty sure there's no tenets. It's just an ideology about treating humans good, well. That's it. So if that is considered a religion by the Supreme Court, I think he's got a case here. I think he's got a case. Wokeism is a religion, and you cannot push your religion on me. I've been saying how dogmatic it is, and how it is exactly the same, equal, and opposite thing as religion. That on the right, the dogmatic thinking is religion. On the left, the dogmatic thinking is the establishment.
And so the good news is I think that there are opportunities not to just have to reinvent the legislative wheel, but to apply the laws that already got us as far as we already have. And I think if we're able to do those things.
Hey, we got Opus in the building. Welcome to the party. Says, I like Vivek. He seems to be the only one doing serious interviews. That is true. I think we're at a place right now because we're so far away. It seems like DeSantis has either decided not to run or is holding off as long as he can to see what the landscape is like to make that final decision. Trump doesn't really need to interview because he's just Trump, and he could do one or two and just, it would blow up. And we know Biden won by running from the basement. So, great point. Welcome to the party, Opus. Glad to see ya. Welcome.
To revive the basic ideas that got us to where we are. That the people who we elect to run the government. That we're free to speak openly as long as our neighbors have the same courtesy in return. That you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but the content of your character. That you get ahead based on merit. That we put the merit back into America to say that you can achieve anything you ever want in this country with your own hard work and commitment and dedication, and believe in that vision of the American dream. Then we can take on the single greatest external threat that we will face in our generation.
Dan, is he going to say China?
Okay. We face an enemy in communist China that powers our modern way of life.
So again, okay, let's make this a poll. Let's specifically Vivek. Let's talk specifically about Vivek. Vivek's thoughts on China. Ooh. Is he accurate? Or is he paranoid? Accurate or paranoid? What do you think?
In China, there's no distinction between economic policy and military
right? That's a good one. That's a good one.
Policy. They are two sides of the same coin. Now, we depend on China. We got to where we are, but going forward, if we're really going to declare independence from China, and I do think that that is what the Declaration of Independence in 2023 calls for, that's going to involve some level of sacrifice. It's going to involve some level of trade-off to be able to achieve semiconductor self-sufficiency before China invades Taiwan, while we have to protect Taiwan vigorously to protect our own way of life. To be able to shore up our own energy leadership position globally by abandoning the constraints of a new climate religion that shackles the West while leaving China untouched.
I'll tell you something. One of the very first things that, you guys know, if you've been here for a while, that I have a great relationship with my dad. He's very supportive. Unlike my mom, he and I have a lot of discussions about things in this area. Facts. Taiwan is China. But one of the first conversations that my dad and I had, this was before Trump was even a thing. We were at a restaurant and we were having a conversation. And he told me that he didn't believe in climate change. Now, the idea that the climate is changing is, what exactly does that mean? And now we've kind of focused the conversation. I like him too. we've kind of focused the conversation more on did humans cause this, or or not. The climate is changing. It doesn't make sense that we would have all this carbon being put into the atmosphere. But at that point, that wasn't the conversation. It was like, oh, global warming is a hoax. And I was like, you can't think that. You can't think that. All the scientists agree that climate change is going to kill us. And he got so angry. He got so angry that I was talking down to him and acting as if he was stupid for his beliefs. Fast forward 10 years. And I still believe climate change is a thing. I still believe it's caused by humans. But obviously I understand that you making sure that 3 days out of the week that your air conditioning in the summer is at 78 degrees is not going to help. That specifically American citizens, are not the ones who are doing this. And so if everybody else, if the climate's going to shit anyway, then I'm definitely not doing anything different to make myself, to inconvenience myself. Then you bring up the point that Tim Pool talks about all the time, about how all these climate change people all have beachfront properties. Actions speak louder than words, particularly with a politician. If you believe that Florida is going to be underwater in 5 years, 10 years, then why did you take out a 30-year mortgage on a Florida beach? It just doesn't make sense. And after, it was, before that I started questioning that specifically, but especially after all the Rona stuff, I was a skeptic before. I had this tattoo, the believe nothing except that anything is possible. I had that tattoo way before Rona, but never was it more apt during that time. And to think of how many people succumbed to the propaganda, the lies, and to know that I stood strong. I'll in jest kind of talk myself up, but I am very proud of myself for not succumbing to that. I'm not surprised that I didn't, but I'm proud of myself for standing for what I believe in. Turns out I was right. Opus says, if climate activists were serious people, they would be talking about modern, clean nuclear power. Yep. But they don't, because reasons. Dan says, someone should ask Vivek how you can invade your own country. Why would you ask that? What it sounds like you're getting at is what he's saying about China, and I would say the answer to that would be TikTok. Develop TikTok, and then we've invaded our own minds. Okay. So we have a counter to the 30-year mortgage if Florida's gone underwater. All right. So you just have to watch Armageddon. I did miss that movie, so I don't know. I assume it's about the end of the world, but one of the characters thought they were going to die, so they took out huge loans and spent it on stupid stuff. That does make sense. But if then all that means if this is the blanket answer to the climate people don't care, so they're just throwing caution to the wind because they know, people aren't listening to us, so we're all gonna die, so let's just take out all these loans and we'll buy all these houses and whatever. Then why are they pushing this message? Why are they not just like, nah, we're good? That makes it even more shady. That makes it even more shady. Dan says Vivek will invade Taiwan, which is China. Vivek says, did he say that? Yeah, Dan, it is late here. Shout out to Dan, the sponsor of the stream, staying up till, what time is it there? Over in Denmark. Very much appreciated. Yeah, did he say that? I'm going back to what MJ was saying, or they have insurance and they won't have any losses. That could be it. That could be it. But it does make you question, right? It does make you question how you can, like, what so then what do they say to the, oh my God, 4:30 in the morning? I will not be offended if you go to bed. I am very happy if you stay and you be here, but I'm just saying I won't be offended if you go to bed. If this is the case, that they're like, oh, we're good anyway, what are they telling to the liberals who are on board with the climate change agenda and believe that there are things that we can do to fix the issue? Is it that, oh, we're so confident that we are going to beat climate change that I bought a house on the beach? Is that really what people would believe? I mean, people are dumb. But I don't know. That does make sense. People are just
stupid. To tell our children to lead them rather than to be afraid of them, saying that, you know what, if you can't smoke,
wait, I gotta
strain up our own energy leadership position globally.
Nuclear
by
energy.
abandoning the constraints of a new climate religion that shackles the West while leaving China untouched. To tell our children to lead them rather than to be afraid of them, saying that, you know what, if you can't smoke an addictive cigarette by the time you're 18 years old, you probably should not be using addictive social media apps like TikTok until you're 16 years old or later either, if at all.
Agreed. I see no reason for 13-year-olds, because that's the age for most of these sites. There's no reason for them to have social media. It's not necessary. It's become necessary because we already gave it to them. But if they change the law that you had to be 18, I would be for that in a second. Because I was about that age, like I talk about this, whenever it comes up, that being an older millennial, we are the only half generation, not even the younger millennials, the older millennials, the only generation that had a real analog childhood. Not like we didn't have computers and video games, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. We didn't have that stuff. Then it came out and it was starting to become more ubiquitous. And we were the ones who were teaching their parents about it because we were the ones who knew what was good. They were old already. Even my older brother, who is Vivek's age, maybe a couple years older, he was an adult. He was in college by the time he got onto social media and stuff. And I think he's better for it. I think I'm better for it for not having, gotten on when I was that young. Having the internet in and of itself was, it was cool, but I did a lot more not educational stuff than educational stuff, if you catch my drift.
Tell businesses, and thank you, businesses in this country that you will not do business in China until the CCP reforms its behaviors, including abandoning its practices of intellectual property theft, U.S. user data theft, and the other practices that don't make this a capitalist game, but a mercantilist one, holding communist China accountable for the COVID-19 pandemic, the worst pandemic in over a century, unleashing hell on the rest of the world, using every financial lever we have to do it, because if we don't, we can expect even worse in the future.
Even worse in the future. Hold people accountable. Opus says, I'm 40, and I truly believe that I grew up at the peak of our societies. The 90s were amazing. Facts. I do. I would have loved to have the experience of going to college before social media was as ubiquitous as it was. because that's how there would be, on a college campus, you're going to have activities and stuff to meet people. But there was always that filter, that wall, that like, well, we're not even Facebook friends. So if I had gotten the opportunity to go to college without social media being a thing, I think I would be better off. So I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. That's why it's so when things are changing so quickly, then you have these micro generations. A generation used to be just about 20 years, because every 20 years people would have kids, and in 20 years would be, the next group of adults, and not much changed in those 20 years. So stuff would change and stuff would be different. Silent generation was different from the boomers, different from Gen X. But then you have older millennials that are different than younger millennials. Then you have Zoomers from, early on. Then you might have the middle Zoomers and the young Zoomers. By Generation Alpha, it might be 5 different generations, because that's how fast all of the things that makes a generation, that's how fast all of those things are moving.
These will not be easy things to do. They will involve short-term sacrifices.
But it's hard. I don't want to do anything that's hard. Make it easy.
They will involve short-term pain. But America's current moment calls for one of your favorites, for Churchill, not for Chamberlain. And I believe we can make these sacrifices. We can rise to that occasion if we really answer that question of who we are.
Who we are. That American identity. If any of this is speaking to you, and you're not subscribed to this channel, I don't know what you're doing. Because this is all I talk about. He has quickly, in 2.5 hours, become my front runner. I understand the practicality of the situation, but 100% I would rather see Vivek than Trump. If it was just, my choice. At this point, remember, this is the first I'm hearing. I haven't heard any detraction, and I haven't heard anything like that. But as of right now, what do we have on the poll? So Vivek's thoughts on China: 4 votes, and 25% said paranoid. I wonder who that was. Dan? No, but yeah, I mean, it's maybe it's just the yeah, right. Maybe it's just the American centric idea. Just guessing that maybe in Denmark it's not as apparent, or maybe it's not as important. But I think in America it's not really up for debate, really. Open says, I really like Vivek. I hope that if he doesn't get the ticket in 2024, that we see him again in 2028. And I'm sure we will, because he's not going to win. He's not going to win. He's not going to win. But, again, Vivek versus DeSantis in 2028, that would be good. And I think, actually, I don't know. I don't know enough about Vivek, but it seems like, DeSantis has a little bit of that Trump strength when he speaks, where he's very direct, but he just speaks so articulately, like a normal person. He doesn't speak like a politician. That it really speaks to people like me who don't like politicians. I'm sorry, Dan. I truly, truly, truly apologize. But also, you did ask. And just said the Americans might be so cynical now that we believe China is that nefarious. Giving some credit to Dan there. Maybe. I wonder how tough Vivek would be to murderous dictators. He seems too nice. I mean, he seems likable. I don't know how nice he is. It seems like we're getting to the end, so I don't think we're going to get on foreign policy. But I don't know. That seems like something I didn't pick up on, but you could be right. You could be right. So let's see what we got here for the rest of this.
As Americans, we have celebrated for the last decade our diversity and our differences, forgetting all of the ways in which we are really just the same as one people. Our diversity is not our strength. Our strength is that which binds us together.
Yes.
Our diversity.
Wrong button. Okay. It's not diversity. It's what binds us together. He doesn't put out the a-hole personality. If he has that personality, then he's hiding it well. And that's kind of what I was saying with the DeSantis thing, is that you could see DeSantis is ready to go. But if he is hiding it well and he has it, that is a huge plus. That is a huge plus. So we're going to finish up this video, and then I have a short 2-minute video on him specifically talking about foreign affairs. So we'll get a nice full picture.
E pluribus unum. From many, one.
We are one.
That is the vision that won the American Revolution 250 years ago. That is the vision that reunited us after the Civil War. That is the vision that won us World War I and World War II and the Cold War. That is the vision that still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive those common ideals over fractious group identity and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we're going to need to revive in order to save this great nation. Thank you. And I look forward to continuing this.
I love it. I love it. This guy is, I mean, he is speaking my language. Like I said, I don't know any about like what his opposition would say. I don't know about his voting history. I don't know any of that. So I'm just going based on that speech alone and the clips that I saw. But that's a great start. That's a great start. And we're going to be, we're obviously going to be covering all this election stuff. Yeah. Yes. I would say yes. Well, we defeated the Nazis, bro. It was us. Well, wasn't it American soldiers who were at least part of the brigade of physically capturing the camps? I don't know. I'm not a World War II historian, but why do you ask? So yeah, he didn't mention much about foreign policy or geopolitics other than specifically what China is doing. Something tells me he might be focused on that again here. This is only a 2-minute clip, so let's see what he's got.
There's a real debate in this country about how much further aid the United States should provide to Ukraine. I've been clear about where I stand about that.
Okay.
I think our top foreign policy priorities have to be declaring independence from communist China and fighting the Mexican drug cartels by eliminating them and solving the fentanyl crisis.
I'm with him on both of those. Those are top priorities.
Here in the United States. Ukraine does not make that list. But here's the actual dirty little secret behind it. With one hand, we're giving $100+ billion in total support to Ukraine and counting, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I would say, is that the Allies won. But Dan's saying Russia won. Okay. Please go on. Continue.
So far to fight against Vladimir Putin. Yet with the other hand, it was the Biden administration that was the #1 opponent of the EU ban on Russian oil imports late last year. Think about that. What does that mean? It means that Biden is lobbying for a policy that fuels and funds Putin's war machine to fight Ukraine while using U.S. taxpayer dollars with the other hand to give them to Ukraine to fight against Russia. That's the real farce at the heart of this. It's not even whether or not we should give more money to Ukraine. I've made my position clear on that.
Hell no.
It's the deeper farce that we gutted American energy security, that we gutted America's energy to be the global leader in energy production, including in fossil fuels, which then empowered Putin to do what he did, only to then fund Ukraine to fight him with your dollars. That is a travesty. It's part of why I joke around that ESG stands for export Soviet gas, because that's the impact that it's had on global markets. It's also no secret that Russia is actually funding those ESG institutes in Western Europe and around the world that promote supposedly this Green New Agenda, while places like Russia and China are laughing at every step of the way as they climb their way to the top. And so the bottom line, the moral of the story.
All right, the bottom line, the moral of the story
is that energy security in America is national security.
Energy security is national security. So maybe blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline might have had some short-term gains. Not saying that we did do it. I'm just saying if we did do it, might have had some short-term gains in this particular skirmish. But in the long run, we've given away national security.
And if we shore up our energy security in America, not only do we unleash our economy, we also put ourselves in a stronger position to take on our enemies.
Fair enough. All right, I'm willing. Let's do, if we got one more short video that we could do. I like, all right. All right, unpacking the woke phenomenon.
So the new...
All right, so we're gonna, this is it, guys. This is it. So we're gonna watch this clip, and then we are heading over to Discord. If one of the mods could drop the link to the Discord, we are, like I said, it's 24/7 party, and the link is also in the description. And we're just hanging out all the time. And then right after the show, we're all there together in the video chat channel. You don't have to cam up. We prefer if you do. It's a nice, more intimate experience. But if you're a little bit shy, you can work up to that. Not a problem. Make sure you're there. And actually, I'm going to have a question about that. If you are, well, let's get through this. And then I have a question.
Popular talking point on the American left is that conservatives can't define the word woke, even as they continue to be anti-woke.
They can't define woke. They can't define woman. They can't define their values.
Here's the one thing I'll admit. Okay, there are a lot of Republicans who don't know what they mean when they use this word. But that just gives an opportunity to the left to ridicule Republicans.
Through semantic obfuscation, woke to a leftist means whatever it needs to mean for me to win the argument.
And what we actually need to do as Republicans is to take the debate to their turf and win. So you don't know what woke means? Here's what it means. I'm going to define it in neutral terms that nobody can deny, okay? Being woke refers to waking up to invisible alleged societal injustices based on genetically inherited attributes, race, sex, and sexual orientation. And further, it creates a hierarchy based on these genetic attributes to say that you're either an oppressor or you're a member of an oppressed class, which creates these invisible relationships that creates a social hierarchy. And what they say is we need to turn that social hierarchy upside down, or at least even it out, by using any means necessary, not just through government.
Any means necessary. And people like Ibram X. Kendi will say the only way to fix past discrimination is through current and future discrimination. I'm more on the side of discrimination and segregation and bigotry is wrong, full stop. Let's just not do that. MJ said, actually, I'll back up here. If England has taken the route of Lord Halifax and Chamberlain's party, then Germany would have won and may or may not have turned on Russia. Interesting. Interesting. You guys know a lot more about this than I do. So I'm just watching the conversation here.
But even through the private sector, even through our schools, and even through our economy itself, including the use of quota systems based on race, gender, and sexual orientation to correct for those alleged societal injustices.
Again, discrimination can only be solved, according to Ibram X. Kendi, by more discrimination.
What? That is what it means to be woke. That is what the woke movement is all about. Whether you're on the left or the right or the center, you look at what proponents of this movement have said over the last 10 to 15 years, that's exactly it. So now we've defined woke. We've done it. Jen
All right.
Psaki, MSNBC, you claim it can't be done. You purposefully cut out my repeated definitions of it. I wrote an entire book about this 2 years ago. You conveniently only quote the Republicans who actually are just a bunch of talking mouthpieces, as opposed to conservatives who actually understand what they're saying. That's convenient for you. Great. Now we've
That's another form of semantic obfuscation. We're saying that, well, nobody really knows what it means, when the only reason you can say that is because you're talking to people who don't know what it means, when many people can define it very succinctly for you, have written books. His book is called Woke Inc. I haven't read it, but I'm sure there's a definition in there. And if not, he just gave it to us.
defined it. Now let's have a debate about it.
Okay.
Okay, what's wrong with this woke movement?
It's
There's a lot that's wrong
stupid.
with it. First and most importantly, it creates division in our country. It tells you that if you're an individual, you're just on the tectonic plate of group identity, that you have no agency over your life, whether or not you're a member of an oppressed class or an oppressor group. That's what determines what you can achieve in life, and increasingly what you're even allowed to think.
As much as I prefer Christian values to wokeism, how is that any different? Listen to it again and pretend he's not talking about wokeism. Pretend he's talking about a religion that you're not. Let's say if you're a Christian, imagine he's talking about Islam. If you're a Muslim, pretend he's talking about Hinduism. Okay. Is this
Movement.
the fix?
There's a lot that's wrong.
Oh, Dan Jensen. Dan Jensen. Oh, my goodness. Bro, thank you so much. We got one more treat here. Oh, actually, there's two more in there. For Morty, you don't have to dance for this one. Dan deserves it. Give Dan a little dance. Make him, show him a little love. Eat it. What are you doing? There you go. Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you. All right. So what we were saying was that imagine he is talking about a religion that is not your religion. If you're religious, if you're not religious, then you're probably already right there with me. But he's talking about a religion that is not your religion.
Wrong with it. But first and most importantly, it creates division in our country. It tells you that if you're an individual, you're just on the tectonic plate of group identity, that you have no agency over your life, whether or not you're a member of an oppressed class or an oppressor group. That's what determines what you can achieve in life, and increasingly what you're even allowed to think.
So maybe not a 1-for-1, but if you are not part of this class, being that religion, then it takes away from your value, your rights, and the gravity of your opinion, the gravity of your words. And what did he just say in that speech? That free speech is a precondition, a necessary precondition to peace. So again, as I say all the time, continue gatekeeping morality in the church if you want to. It's not going to work out. It hasn't worked out and has brought us to where we are. That has to change.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley summed it up when she said, we don't want any more black faces that don't want to be a black voice, that we don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. What does that say? It equates the color of your skin, your race, with the content of ideas that you're allowed to have. That is wrong.
Also, if you're not a Christian, then I can't take you seriously because you are a secular hedonist. You're not allowed to have ideas on this, that you're wrong because of that. I'm stressing this because I need you guys to see. I need you guys to see how similar that wokeism and religion are two sides of the same coin.
It is anti-American, and it is fracturing our country to a breaking point. Here's the other thing it does, is it creates a culture of fear that replaces our culture of free speech. Because again, if your race goes from being about your skin color to being about your ideas.
semantic obfuscation,
then any disagreement with those ideas automatically makes you a racist. And there is no greater damnation in modern America than to be called a racist. So when given the choice between pledging allegiance to this new secular cult of wokeism and being tarred with the scarlet R, everyday Americans start to bend the knee. And that's what's created a new culture of fear in America.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just the fact that it divides us. It's not just the fact that it then silences free speech in our country, creating a new culture of fear instead. It's also the fact that it ruins our culture of merit in America, that says you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. That's what
Do we need a God for that? Okay, just checking.
Martin Luther King says. The woke movement says no. We have to use racial and gender-based and sexual orientation-based genetic criteria to equalize for injustices. They're trying to fight fire with fire, what they perceive as the fire of historical injustice. Well, now they're using the exact same methods to fight back against it through race-based affirmative action, through other quota systems in corporate America or otherwise. That too is what's wrong with the woke culture, is that it is an assault on merit itself. And look yourself in the mirror.
It's an assault on merit itself. The notion of merit, and that is something that we should value. It attacks that. It assaults that.
And ask yourself, do you still live in a country where the best person gets the job, regardless of the color of their skin? Where the best person or the best student gets into college to pursue an opportunity in higher education? I think most of you know that isn't the case in America today.
Nope.
The fact that you're not allowed to admit it indicts our culture of free speech. But the fact that it's true indicts our one-time culture of merit in this country, which we've lost. But the last part of this is that they don't just use politics to correct for it, because through politics, at least you get to vote for which politician stands for a given policy. No, they've resorted to capitalism and the private sector itself as the way that they want to settle these questions by taking that culture of fear into the American economy and the private sector. And I think that's downright dangerous for future unity in this country.
Yep.
Because you don't know what Alexis de Tocqueville, he traveled this country. He said that a diverse and divided democracy, it's not supposed to stand for more than a generation.
Ooh. What was the first part? A diverse
and divided democracy.
A diverse and divided democracy.
It's not supposed to stand for more than a generation.
Cannot stand for more than a generation. Well, we're coming right up on one generation of all this bullshit. So either America is failing or we need to fix something.
Unless there are spaces that bind us together.
Hey, we got Opus in the Discord. Welcome to the Discord. As soon as we are done here, we are heading right over to the video chat. Welcome. MJ said that is Abe Lincoln. A house divided cannot stand. Yep. Same concept.
Across that diversity, across our differences. And you know what does that better than anything else? It's the private sector. It's American capitalism. It's our educational institutions. It's our churches and religious institutions. And what the woke movement does is it says that every one of those institutions has to adopt the same ideology, the same diversity, equity, inclusion agenda. In the name of inclusion, they've actually created a culture of exclusion where those institutions are no longer culturally in the mainstream unless they adopt these woke values.
Or in other words, every single institution has been captured and co-opted by the woke. And it cannot be mainstream unless it is woke.
And that too will be what divides us to a breaking point. So you want a definition of what it means to be woke? I've given it to you. You want to know what's wrong with being woke? I've given it to you. If you on the left actually want to stand by your principles of being a liberal.
What principles? Now, let's be fair. Again, we talk about the loud leftists. There are a lot of, liberal individuals who very much are principled. They're just not saying anything. And if you're not saying anything, then there are a lot of people who are saying lots of stuff. So I'm going to address that.
Then fine, let's have that debate out in the open. I challenge Jen Psaki, who spent 10 minutes yesterday decrying Republicans who didn't even know what they were saying when they were talking about woke. Well, great. Now you have it. You want to have that open debate? I'll practice what I preach. I'm not like other Republicans. I'll come on NBC. I'm willing to talk to anybody if you, the left, are willing to do the same in return. There's your challenge. Let's see if you accept it.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right. So, guys, what do we think about Vivek Ramaswamy? I think he is he's saying all the right things. He's saying all the right things. I am with I apologize. I forgot who was saying that he seems a little too nice. Veronica, I think that was you or MJ, saying that he seems a little too nice. And I can see where that might be an issue, but I don't know if that is an issue, or if it's going to be an issue until we see some kind of debates. So the primaries are going to be very, very important for what for determining the more nebulous types of factors that we're looking for. Open says thumbs up for Vivek. I agree. I mean, yeah. From here, all he can do is mess up, in my mind. Now, again, I'm very aware of the fact that he's probably not going to be the president. I'm very aware of the fact that he may not even make it past the primaries. That does not, in any way, not at all, change how I feel. Wait a minute, he has his own show? I'm looking up here. We got the Vivek show. I didn't know he had his own show. Let me just, hold on. Subscribe to that real quick. All right. Yeah, and we have to maintain that this is an ongoing situation. Treat things fairly, but understand that things are moving quickly. I think that's really the only way to navigate a presidential election, right? I mean, what else can you do? MJ said, I was saying he seems too nice to effectively manage a murderous dictatorship, or other world leaders who are nasty machines. So I do see that could be an issue. I'm not saying I think that is an issue. I'm saying until I see that side of him, then that could be an issue. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot moving. There is a lot going on. There's going to be more people that enter the race. There's going to be people that drop out. There's going to be, exposés and this and that. So I'm going to do my best to cover the stuff that matters. And I'm not trying to be like, I tell you guys all this time, I'm not a news person. I'm not a newsman. I'm not trying to break news stories or anything like that. I am trying to bring you information that I think is relevant for the goals that we have of fixing discourse in this country. Are you saying he has the Hulk sign? He might. We never know. You never know until you know. And we got to see him. We got to see him in action. If you're on a stage with Trump and you can handle yourself, maybe you don't even need to go Hulk mode. You can just not over-intellectualize, but come at it from an intellectual and articulate manner. Like the Trump thing only worked because nobody was ready for it. Everybody was like, oh, yes, I'm going to take my turn. And no, I want to respect you. And Trump was like, fuck that. That's the only reason. Now that we know, and I mean, also he was, he's really good at it. So the fact is, excuse me. Excuse me. We know that the only way to combat that is either going to be better at it than Trump, which I don't think is going to happen. Oh, Dan is leaving us. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you once again for sponsoring the stream. I cannot thank you enough. Dan is my biggest supporter, and I don't know what to say, man. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic night. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much. And he says, hit the like button on the way out. Great advice. But yeah, so I don't think anybody is going to be able to out-Trump Donald Trump. But there are ways to deal with that. And if he can navigate it, then we have a conversation. If not, then this whole thing about, dealing with dictators is definitely an issue, because as shisty as Trump might be. He's not a murderous dictator. So that being said, guys, I want to thank you once again for hanging out with me. I know that you could be doing anything else with your time. And so for being here, just spending, whether it's a minute or 20 or an hour or 3, I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll give a special shout out to the sponsor of the stream, Dan Jensen. Also want to thank MJ and Indie Film for contributing. It is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. And I promise it is going into creating a life where I can be, I can give this my full attention and make sure that I'm bringing you guys the best that I can. I promise you that is where all this money is going. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Remember, Opus says, thank you, buddy. I am very interested to talk to you. Make sure, if you're not familiar with Discord and how it works, just send me a DM or something and we'll get you all set up. Other than that, we will be in the voice channel. Thank you again so much for hanging out. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to remix, resurrect the second coming of Common Sense. Catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, plus dropping videos every single day. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.